essentially similar presentation, but I've added some more key ingredients that Victor wanted to discuss was what does a smooth road look like? How do we prepare for smoothness? And then what is y'all's role? And then kind of how can we work as a team together? So 1811, the first contract was awarded. The first 10 miles of paving by the federal government was awarded. It went from Cumberland, Maryland, and eventually it went to Wheeling, Maryland. Sorry, that curry's kind of warm inside my throat there. By the 1830s, the government conveyed parts of the roads back to the state. They turned them into toll roads. Anyway, known as the National Road, and it's also known as the Cumberland Road, and now we know it as Highway 40, US 40, Route 40. That same one that comes right in here to Utah was the first road that was ever built funded by the federal government. Oh yeah, I need to get this set up here. We don't have a microphone. You know what, instead of playing it, I'll briefly describe this scenario here. So in 1945, a guy that was predicting the future, he talked about having, this is 1945, just 100 years earlier, they were curious about flying machines, and it was just a concept that wasn't there. So in 1945, the concept of having TV devices that you could wear and watch on your cell phone, being able to communicate on a daily basis without having to be tethered, he predicted all this stuff. He predicted flying cars in 2045, which we don't know if that's going to happen or not because we're not there. But anyway, I want to help you guys learn how to predict the future. It's a very simple trick, okay? The thing about it is you got to pay attention and you've got to focus. It's all it takes. No problem. So if everybody will look at the screen and focus on that spiral. Once it moves, everybody is in the ability to predict the future. Everybody understand that? So focus close. Focus. Sami Dwayne is going to help you predict the future. Did everybody see it move? No. All right, so you're in the zone. So can you predict the future here? This was a project we did in Colorado. It was called Left Hand Canyon. The road got washed out by rain, heavy floods. It became an emergency project that the feds put together. It took about 3 years to rebuild it. Anyway, the gentleman left his burrito up on the paver Friday after work. On Saturday, the bear was, luckily the burrito was back on the street, or the bear would have really tore some stuff up. Can you predict the future here? Can you predict the future here? You paving guys, what's going to happen here?
Fall apart.
It's going to come up. Yeah.
It's going to come up. Can you predict the future here? Y'all seen this scenario? You know, you're milling, things starts to laminate and come apart on you, you can go out there and kick big chunks of this asphalt off there. So we deal with this stuff. We have problems like this, you know. And can you predict kind of what happened here? You guys that were in the class, y'all obviously know now. And we can talk about it. What happened? Foreman, this is your time to shine right here. How many are paving foremans? Raise your hand. 1, 2, we got the street guy, 3, 4. You guys kind of participated in this. Do you know what would have caused this?
The vibration was large.
The roller was too cold.
Speed.
Impacts per foot.
Impact per foot, that's exactly what it is.
Too fast.
So they were rolling too fast. They got kind of behind. The supervisor told the guy to get caught up. But the reason they were rolling this late in the game, because it was too cold, the impacts per foot were there, is because they weren't getting density with their breakdown roller, because they weren't running their vibratory screed all the time. And so they were losing that last 1 or 2%. So the QC manager, who's our QC guys in here, they said, look, we need you to hit this roller, you know, we need you to vibrate it. Well, he's falling further and further behind, and so now he starts catching up. and he didn't have his frequency and his amplitude set on his rotor to match the speed that he was rolling. So good jobs on getting that. These are really blurry, I don't know why, but they look good on the screen. So the secrets of smoothness, we got to think about the end first, and it's one of those moments where smoothness is important to everybody in this room, but a lot of times we're so busy being busy doing production, trying to figure out what plant we're going to get material from. How come we only had 3 trucks instead of we needed 5, or how come we only had 22 trucks and we needed 26? So you're constantly figuring out these problems, and then it just comes like, just pave it, just get it done. Okay? Scenarios that happen every day in our line of work, because that material can't sit in the silo overnight, so we got to get rid of it. And so we put smoothness on the background or off of our thoughts until kind of toward the end of the day. It's like, oh yeah, we got to make sure we're doing good paving practices. So I've kind of highlighted these details, and there's more of them. But know your IRI before you're paving over it. The striping detail, bridges, trucks, and when I put bridges down there, those are good places to end the day, because your joints, I think here in the spec, it's like 15 feet before you get to the bridge. So those are good places to end your end of day and start your next day at a bridge. If you can plan it that way, you can't always plan it that way, but those are just tips. So you guys know I do a lot of driving, a lot of testing, and so we've had the privilege of doing racetracks. We worked for the Federal Highway Administration for a period of 5 years. When I say we, our company did. And we were doing all the national parks for Central Federal Lands. So it took me to some amazing places. One of them, I've been to Rocky Mountain National Park several times, and I was on the west side of the park. And I was doing my paperwork, snowplow comes through, and he goes, "Where are you headed?" And I said, "Back to Denver." And he goes, "Well, we just broke through up at the top, and the top is," this is what they call the top of the Trail Ridge Road. Anyway, when he said we broke through the ice up there, that's literally what they did. And those markers are 20 feet in the air. And so when I got up there, it wasn't 2 lanes, it was 1 lane wide. And I saw all of this white, and I locked down my steering wheel, and I was wide open driving. I would have loved to have taken pictures. There was no way I was moving. I was just going straight as a string. So that shortcut to go from west side of Rocky Mountain National Park to Denver, Colorado cost me about 7 hours instead of 1. So it wasn't quite the shortcut I was expecting it to be. So in my travels, I was involved in a project by the Sheiks in Abu Dhabi. Those guys were rich. They built a drag strip, a Formula One racetrack, and a race oval, so they could drive around and race each other on the weekends or whenever they decided to do it. So the track road really rough, and the guy that was the project manager that was in charge of that, I'd done one of his racetracks, and so he contacted me and asked me if I could come over, profile the road, develop a grinding strategy for him, and it was just going to cost the company too much time. 3 months I was going to tie up a machine, shipping it over there, going through customs, and yada, yada, yada. So I said, nah, but if you can have somebody test it and send me the data, I'd be glad to analyze it for you. So we did. We analyzed it, and they speak Hindu over there, and so I was brushing up on Hindu words just on the internet, just kind of doing some surfing, and come across this word called jugaad. And it's an Hindu slang, and it just says improvise with what you have and keep it simple. So this is an example of jugaad, okay? So this is LaGrange, Texas, and I told you guys yesterday that if you turn a corner, there's another tree. Well, this is what it looked like all around town. This is just everything you see is like that, just trees in the road. Now, I did not meet with the city to find out why they did it, but this is just what they did. Now, y'all familiar with LaGrange, the ZZ Top song LaGrange? This is where it was originated from. So we have several items of interest. This was in my slide yesterday. I think that 3 is going to turn into 30. Okay, so we're here for the next 6-7 hours. So enjoy the sunshine here in this nice, tight, confined space right here. Talk about how it's measured. So how many of y'all are familiar with inertial profiling and how that machine works? Raise your hand. Just a couple of you. And you're a QC guy too, right? Do you run the profiler for your company?
Yes.
Okay. So if I say something out of line, please jump in and throw it up here. So I brought this up yesterday. Which of these rides smoother? And some guy said, "Well, GMC rides smoother than all of them." So we'll incorporate General Motors with Chevrolet and GMC. So, ladies, which one of these rides smoother to you?
3.5 ton, F-150.
The 150? Anybody else? Anybody drive Chevys around here? Okay, they ride pretty smooth, don't they? I think they do.
Yeah.
I've got 2.2 million miles and they're all Chevy Suburbans and Tahoes. So, Dodge, got Dodge guys in here. Mopar guys, good. I had a 99 Dodge. And the reason I have a 99 Dodge is because everybody in my town has a 99 Dodge. So I had a good friend that worked for the dealership and he ordered two. Okay, ordered 2 red Dodges. Well, what that meant was when he placed the order, it was 2 lots. So they had probably 60 red half-ton Dodge trucks being delivered to this dealership, and the owner of the dealership went crazy nuts. You know, it's like, what is going on? You know, so a lot of discounts on Dodge pickups that year. So we all got them. So which of these rides smoother? Which of we? Any Army guys in the room that served in service? I don't know if that tank will drive smoother, but I think our new tank's ride probably pretty smooth. So farmers, we have anybody run tractors and does any of that stuff? And then Jeeps, GMA owns Jeeps, Jeep owners. They're a lot of fun. So auto companies spent considerable effort trying to study the vehicle movements. And the reason they were interested in the vehicle movements is because they want to be that company that says we provide a smoother ride. We want to be that Ford F-150 or F-250, and we want to be that company that provides a smoother ride. So they started studying vehicle movements, limitations of those vehicles. 2 major things that they found are axle hop, which happens around 40 to 50 miles per hour, and body bounce, which happens at a slower speed when you're taking off. They studied it. This is the quantum results of that. The pickup obviously has a higher frequency than the sedan. Does everybody agree with that scientific statement? The car seems to ride a little bit smoother than a pickup, but today they're so phenomenally well, I can't really tell the difference. So ride quality depends on our response to the vibrations of those vehicles. That's what ride quality is, not smoothness, but ride quality, the overall experience. Clicker maybe run out of deals, but so when they're studying the human response to the vehicles, they hired these young engineering students out of college when they were looking for some summer jobs, and they just shake the shit out of them until they just passed out or they just could not handle the stress anymore. Okay, and so what they found out was your seat back, your seat butt, and your hands and with your steering wheel and your feet. Those were the areas of that vehicle that caused the most discomfort to the driver. Second thing is the vehicle response to the road. So we can agree that these 2 trucks and this tank, I guess that's because I'm not holding a hand up, true or false on this statement?
True.
Okay. True or false on this statement?
True.
Very true. And true or false on this? Okay, so if all 3 of these are true, how can we truly measure roads if our vehicles respond differently to those roads? The road roughness is transferred through the vehicle, through the limitations of that vehicle. Can anybody tell me what those limitations are? Tires and shocks. I think that's those 2 right there. Anybody know the third one?
Wind resistance?
No?
Speed.
No? No?
Steering.
Steering's close. We're in the interior. It's actually the seat cushion, you know, so they've modified all these things to hide the imperfections in the road through the vehicle movement. So, what can be used to measure real road roughness other than see the pants? So, familiar with the straight edge? Familiar with that? What about the butometer? The engineer that comes out and says, man, this road ride's tough, rough, y'all. You need to keep working on it, okay? And y'all have them too. Y'all have calibrated rear ends, you know. You drive a road, you know what it feels like before you call the smoothness guy out and say, hey, can we get this tested now? You kind of know the result that's going to be. They have the profilograph, and then you have the inertial profiler, which is what we're using today in technology. So the inertial profiler, laser and inertial technology, has a fast response time. It measures the roughness of the road in several entities. Here in Utah, we're doing MRI, but this will also do profilograph, and it will also do ride number, and also do HRI. Rut depth is also common use for an inertial profiler. You just need a few more lasers out there to calculate how much about 2 minutes material you need to fill in the ruts. IRI stands for International Roughness Index, and it really correlates that seat of the pants test to a value. So if you feel it when you're driving it, it will show up in IRI. The profilograph did not do that. You could literally see a nice smooth trace, but you knew there were 2 or 3 bumps and dips out there, and it's because that truss went up and down at the same interval as the length of the truss, and then you won't find anything out there in a profilograph. IRI is just a filter that the profile is passed through to estimate the vehicle's movement, the suspension of that vehicle. So when you talk about IRI, it's just it's like a golf score, all right? It's nothing else but to tell you how well you did or how bad you did. That's all it does. It just gives you a value. What the machine is doing is this measuring elevation changes at probably 15,000 times a second. It's going through and measuring all these changes between the aggregate. So if you have a really large open graded friction course or open graded mix, you're going to see a little increase in IRI values because that beam is averaging all of those angles of those rocks, and that space is also counted into that measurement. Okay? All of those elevations they get filtered through what they call an IRI filter. And then basically it says your road is smooth if it's 40 and below, or your road is rough if it's 100 and above. You know, and I don't know what the threshold. I tried to find the thresholds that Utah uses, and they may be in the AASHTO spec. I mean, how do they determine what's good and bad? Victor, do you know? Do you know?
Yeah, we borrow from multiple states. So right now, bonus is anything underneath. So what they define as good right now is full bonus is less than 40.
Full bonus less than 40. So where do they record that value? Where's it at in the spec? Because I pulled up the spec and I didn't see a table or anything. So.
It's in the spec. It's actually a special provision.
Okay.
So it's not in the actual specification itself. It's a standalone specification. They pull out and put in each spec or each project individually.
Oh, they put a table in each deal.
That's correct.
All right.
It's something to be determined project specific.
I got you.
Every project, yeah.
And the line for disincentive is it 70?
60.
60 is disincentive, and
No,
then
yeah.
corrective work. Where's it hit at?
So right now, anything 100 is roughness index, which is a must grind.
All right. Texas is 95. 60 is our disincentive too. You know, they give you a window of 60 to 75 in Texas that says you get 100% pay or zero, and then 75 to 95 you're being deemed pretty quick on disincentives. So,
Okay.
but then our max incentive is 30. So that's the target that our paving companies in Texas try to run. If you y'all work in New Mexico, their corrective work is 60. So if you get above 60, you're grinding. Okay. New Mexico does an OGFC a lot on their intermediate layers, but you ride it, but you ride the intermediate layer and do the corrective work on it.
For this group, are you going to explain what 60 is, what 30
Sure,
is?
sure, we sure can. So when we talk about a number, all right. So let's go to this slide right here because it's a good question, good lead in right there. So when we're talking about a number, we're talking about elevations in inches per mile or millimeters per kilometer, but inches per mile is where we're at. Okay. And so what they're doing is they're estimating that this profile of this road, based on that laser's ups and down movements, you're going to be, that suspension, right here you have the spring and the shocks, that suspension compresses or expands that many inches in a mile.
So 30 inches per mile.
The suspension is moving a quarter inch, 1/16 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch, and as it's moving, it's measuring or estimating through that filter how much that suspension would move based on your paving. So if you get 40s, state's happy with it, your customer's happy with it, which is the traveling public, because their vehicle suspension is not moving. And when it's not moving, you're not causing, y'all know what dynamic load is, loading, trucks, vehicles, so those impacts of that axle hop really truly hops, and the body bounce truly bounces that vehicle. And so those are what they call impact loading on the pavement. Asphalt, we don't have the same privilege as the concrete guys, and I don't know if I know y'all do concrete paving, but concrete pavement spreads that load out over a distance. Asphalt, it's right there, right straight down. Every time it drives onto the pavement, that dynamic loading is straight down. So your subgrade has to be perfect, has to meet the density, has to meet the spec. Your first course, or if you get 2 courses, or if you get 3 courses, every one of those are a chance to bridge that dynamic loading to get the longevity out of asphalt. And we want asphalt to be the king daddy in our state because it's fast, it's quick, it's easy, and we make money at it. We make money selling asphalt. When I say we, I'm talking about we as an industry, you as a company. It's what you're in the business for, is to sell asphalt. Okay, that's where your profit is. They provide the service of paving it, and you pay for that labor. And so it's a bid process. I know y'all had some estimators in here. Who are they at? So you guys are putting together these bid prices and saying, can we make money at this job? Okay. And so when you do that, all of the smoothness part that we're talking about today is just it's a byproduct of every step of your process. Okay? Because when do they do the smoothness test? When?
Sometime before they start the project or after they're done paving?
After they're done paving.
Sometimes during.
Sometimes during. But you get paid on the fine. Okay? So after you've spent the time and the effort and the energy paving this road, you get analyzed based on the job that you did. Okay? So Geneva Rock, are you proud of the company you work for? All right, everybody? Yes? Big hand?
Yes.
So that signature of Geneva Rock on this project should be out there every day you pave. You should signature Geneva Rock's been here with the quality of work you do. Does that make sense? Okay. Kind of talk about that, but does everybody understand what we're measuring when you talk about IRI? We're measuring the elevation changes caused by a rolling pattern, caused by a paver stop, caused by the mix design not quite meeting up to the design. We're a little bit shy on the asphalt. All of that affects smoothness. Small, minute deals. But we're measuring small, minute deals. We're measuring a 1/16 of an inch. We're measuring a quarter of an inch. And all of those getting added up start bringing up your IRI in inches per mile. Okay? So if you were going to grade yourself, who's my student? Do you know what the IRI is on your projects?
40.
40 is a good number. Do you hit 40s? I mean, are you in the 40 range max bonus when you pay?
I've never even heard of an IRA numbers before.
Okay. So we need to share that information with him. Share the reports with him, because the machine records a lot of stuff. And I'll help anybody that asks the question is, what can I do to improve my paving project? Which is why I'm here today. But the data that you have is collected, that data will show you bumps and dips. It will show you the true elevations of what it's doing. and it will give you a station number. And you can take that data and you can say, well, what happened right here at station 875 plus 32? And foreman, if you don't know what happened, because you got this big hoop in your graph, you need to take better notes. So project managers need to be not really putting the thumb on your foreman, because there needs to be some allowances there to do his job, because he's got to manage the trucks and delivery and all the paving crews that there, and somebody's not showing up for the roller and he's got to deal with all that. So, but you need to be able to convey to him and say, what happened at 875 plus 32? And the foreman needs to say, well, we had to wait on trucks, or the roller filled up with water right there. Isn't that interesting? You know, and the roller needs to know where he's at. So if you have station numbers out there, when he stops and fill up deal, have him grab out his phone, put in, I filled up at station 875 plus 32. Because if you don't know what he's doing, where he's doing it, you don't know how it affects your IRI. Does that make sense? And you can't fix it. If you're not tracking it, you can't fix it. So the IRI is, we're giving a value to the left wheel path. We're giving an IRI value to the right wheel path. If this is a 60 and this is a 50, what's the average? 55. Very good. And you're getting paid based on the average. So if you have something going on with the left side of your paver and you're getting 70s, 80s, and 90s on the left side, probably have your joint matcher. Do y'all use joint matchers here? Okay. So you probably have your joint matcher over here, your skis over here. The numbers aren't going to be the same. Okay? They're just not going to be the same. The joint matcher is a great tool for production. It's a terrible tool for smoothness. Okay? I promote 2 skis all the time. You know, bump that edge, rake it down just a little bit, 2 skis, 2 skis. Be thinking 2 skis. Victor, if you're on a mission to make roads smoother, be preaching 2 skis all the time. And then you'll see numbers start dropping. You'll see numbers in the 30s. You'll see numbers in the 20s. And I can prove it to you. Okay? So a little bit more complicated, because now you're working around 2 pieces of equipment, but it works. The theory works. So Utah's ride specification is the IRI is calculated from each profile. Each profile, the IRI values are averaged point by point to create an MRI. And just like what I said before, it's a good way to isolate paving problems. It's not going to say, the IRI value is not going to say, oh man, y'all did a terrible job rolling. It's just going to give you a number. And you got to take that number and go, what happened here, what happened here, and what happened here? Why did it change? What made that change happen? Y'all sent me some data. I don't know if I'm there yet or not. But localized roughness is another part of your spec. So you got to fix localized roughness. I'm not a fan of localized roughness. I'm a fan of show me a bump, show me a dip, and I can fix it. Okay? Localized roughness, what is it? You know what it is? Does anybody know what a localized roughness is?
Is it like
Well,
chatter?
what's that?
Is it like chatter or something?
Could be. Could be chatter. Could be a bumper dip. It could be a roller operation. It could be just like what he said earlier, the impacts per foot. You may not be able to see it in the mat. That slide I showed you looked perfectly smooth in broad daylight. Perfectly smooth. But when the sun set, it cast a shadow on all those little rippers, and that's the only way I saw that. When I
Looking at
first
that slide, I would consider that localized roughness.
It would be localized roughness. And it's not even going to show up as a must grind in IRI. Their IRI ran 65, 70. I mean, it wasn't bad. Wasn't any corrective work, but because of localized roughness, even localized roughness did not show up on that report because it was so close together. And so it didn't. Localized roughness, that's the key word. It is localized. Okay? It's a condensed version. They run it through what they call a 25-foot moving average. And it's basically if you had a 25-foot ski and you drug it completely across that brand new mat, it's looking for elevations that don't meet the IRI. So it's a bigger number. Do you know what the localized roughness number is?
Yeah, again,
135?
our class 1 roads, which is more than one opportunity to improve the ride, our localized roughness is 90.
90?
Anything over 90 is required as, are you talking, is this,
Yeah.
to make sure we're talking the corrective action?
Correct back. Well, localized roughness, grinding the bumps and
So in
dips.
25 feet, if you have more deviations up and down that cumulatively add up to more than 90 inches per that 25 feet, it's a must grind. So here we're used to must grind, but localized roughness is
But
the effective corrective action.
90?
Yeah.
That's too low. Now,
It's
I-
120 for class 2s.
okay, that's still too low. Okay, it's a value of what's corrective work, and it's a multiplication problem. You know, it's a percentage of whatever your corrective work is. Localized roughness should be 135 to 150 to 180.
Yeah.
That should be your
On
number,
our,
because you're picking up little things that.
Yeah, on a percent improvement jobs, they're 140.
Well, that's not too bad, but still, percent improvement, you have more chances of creating localized roughness based on what was there before. I'm assuming percent improvement is just an overlay of some sort. Okay.
That's
So,
where it's at, yeah.
you know, I wasn't part of Utah's ride spec, and I've looked at it, and I'm not going to criticize it because you guys have to deal with it. I don't. Once I'm gone, I don't have to deal with Utah's spec at all, you know. But as an association, I know you're on the executive committee. I know Waylon's also a part of the board of directors. That is probably an area where y'all should bring up to more research being done to how do we come about this localized roughness threshold. Because you're probably grinding more stuff than you ever needed to grind. You can't feel it, you can barely find it, and you rely on probably a profiling company or yourself to mark those locations for you.
That's the greatest thing I've ever heard.
So,
But you know what, you're right, we'll get into this.
we'll talk about it. It's not the place to do it, but that it's something that we should really. Localized roughness is exactly what it is. It's just it's an area of localized roughness. Now, can that be spread out over a long stretch? Can you have 100-foot localized roughness? Yes. Can you have a 300-foot localized roughness? Yes. And if you have those, you have some serious action going on with your pavers. Probably not a roller problem, it's more of a paving problem, okay? Something's not working right. Got a chipped dink out of your auger, you know. Something I told the gentleman last night, and I don't have a slide for it, but this is a good time to bring it up. When you're out there working or you're out there planning your project, you need to A, pay to the striping detail because that's where the test is going to be conducted. Because if you're just paving 5 straight lines and all of a sudden the striping comes up in there and you've got a safety shoulder over here or a bike path and it throws everything over a little bit and you didn't pave that way, all of a sudden the test is being taken on that longitudinal joint. It's going to be corrective work all the way down, okay? It's just the nature of the beast. So on your paver, it's a good idea to mark where the wheel paths are going to be because that's the only place this test takes place is the wheel path, okay?
I've been on jobs, I've always kind of wondered. I've had, see you got your right wheel, your left wheel, and they'll put a grind in the middle. Only middle, maybe 4 feet wide, 10 feet long, but right in the middle of the lane. And I've been on jobs where, before we profilographed it, or after they profilographed it, marked it out, we've been through where they've marked it, it's smooth, but there's other places where it felt bumps, and there's no marks there. Is that something wrong with the
Welcome to
reading?
localized
Or
roughness.
is that the
That's why
localized
I
roughness?
that's why I don't like it.
That's what I've always wondered, it's kind of,
Because it's not seat of the pants test, okay? It is based on mathematics and it's based on the filter, and that's all localized roughness is. It takes all that data and it says, okay, we're going to run it through a 25-foot moving average. What 25-foot moving average device did y'all used to use?
bike with the ski in there?
Yeah.
A profilograph.
California
profile
profilograph.
index.
So you're getting the same results as you're on a fixed frame, that 25-foot moving average, and it is stretching across that road. That's why you can sometimes feel roughness and it's not a grind, and that's sometimes you can not feel roughness and you see it because it's based on that 25-foot fixed frame.
So that could be marked on there in that 25 foot. Could it be a mismark on that area that they're judging?
You got to trust your grinding company, whoever's doing the layout.
That's
for
gonna
you.
look totally
Yeah, if they have the
different
stationing
companies.
wrong,
And
absolutely.
that's what I've kind of wondered, is it stationed wrong? Is when you run it, you come back,
Yep.
could it be
If
mismarked?
somebody else was doing it, say someone run the initial, and then another guy came and run the initial 5 feet back, then absolutely it can be.
Well,
can be
right now,
smart.
we're the only company in Utah, Geneva Rock, that has the high-speed photograph that actually has GPS capability.
Okay.
So right now, we can absolutely check that regardless of
Pinpoint
what
right
we
where we're
think.
at.
Yep.
We're within a couple of feet. It's right on. We can run a job and and the station numbers are right at the start and it's right at the end, so we know,
Yep.
as we talked about last time, we know that it works.
So you guys that are supervisors, foremen, and you're on the project, the best thing that you can do to help this guy, and who else are your QC guys? You somebody else?
Everybody in the field, raise your hand, because these are your new operators.
All right. So the thing that you can do to help minimize error is to set up a sight 1,000 feet long would be perfect. Do it with a steel tape, so it's very, very accurate. If you use a total station or something like that, they're not as accurate because just use a steel tape because it's following the curvature of the earth. Okay. A total station device or a survey device, it's shooting a straight beam laser and you're not following the contour of the earth. So when you set up a calibration track, that's what this is called, make it 1,000 feet, make it relatively straight, and put it somewhere close to your project. So when they come out and do a profilograph test, they can check the GPS and go, let's set up here to here, let's check our GPS and see how close we are to that distance. If it's measuring 1,000 feet, you're good to go to run that project. The system that y'all have, you can set up a GPS point at the start and a GPS point at a bridge, or a GPS point at a turn lane, a GPS point at a dead cow in the road, a GPS point at the end. You can set all these points up and then run the test, and you can pull that up into your software and it'll tell you from point A to point B to the dead cow, and then the dead cow to the end of the project. It can tell you, it can break down your project into small segments. So when me as a company try to help contractors, I break it down into small segments, okay? Because you don't know what you're really doing out there from truck to truck. But the machine can tell you, do you ever break down your stuff in 50-foot increments or however long a load will take you in distance? Have you ever done that? Okay. So I do that a lot too. I say, well, how many feet am I paving with a tandem? You know, how many feet am I paving with a flow boy? How many feet am I paving with a belly dump? Okay. And so when I'm doing all this work for a contractor, I mark all these things, GPS points, blah, blah, blah. It takes a long time to put all this together. But in running it, it's always there. It's simple. If you know you're going to be using belly dumps, you know you can get 85 feet per belly dump, then you know where it stops and you know where it starts. You can put a GPS point there, and you can see how that load ran, okay? We were doing a tunnel in Colorado. There was no room for a shuttle buggy, so Road Tech built a shuttle buggy that was low profile, and we were able to run through there. But we were having trouble getting densities. We were having trouble getting smoothness out of that. And so I did this for them, saying, well, let's break this down. How far are we getting with this truck? And they would tell me. And what we were having was every third load, we were getting a bump. And we wouldn't have known how it repeated, but it was because we were hauling from about 20 miles away, cold. And there was 2 trucks that didn't have tarps, and they were 3 and 3. And just their thermal segregation caused localized roughness that we could not figure. We couldn't see it, we couldn't feel it. But when I was running the test, it kept showing up. And I was like, what's going on? It's like every 85 feet we're getting something happening here. So break it down into small increments and it'll show you more. And I've got samples of that here. Right profile, let me catch back up. Good question. Thank you very much for for your input there. So y'all use the Smoothness Assurance module. It's called SAM. The check boxes are 25-foot length, continuous, and then there's a threshold box also. Now that you've kind of shared with me, I'll reanalyze that at your threshold. You use it as a QC tool. So how many of y'all use ProVal in here? ProVal, anybody? ProVal experts, 2 of you. So do y'all run the histogram ever?
Yes.
Okay. So what the histogram does, and this is something that, where's the foreman at? Raise your hand. Foreman. You need to ask, how am I doing? That's the question you need to ask. How am I doing? And then Victor, or what's your name again? Jared, will pull your report and say 82% of your road is below 50. That's what the histogram does. Or 72% of your road sucks. Okay? So that's what the histogram does. Okay? So how am I doing? So if I was going to take over a deal like this, I would immediately incorporate some kind of value competition of how you can track yourself, okay? Because you need to know if you're improving or not. If that 80% is good and it goes to 85%, you're going the right direction. If that 80% goes down to 50% good, you're going the wrong direction. How do you know that? Well, you just get the report at the end of the day, so you don't know. So histogram, quick, easy tool. I'll show you how it works real quick, and you can go, oh, that would be helpful if you knew how you did. You can scale the viewer, which means you can look at the graph in small increments, and you can also shorten the interval, which is what I talked about earlier. If you shorten the interval, it can say, where was I good, where was I bad? And the job, I don't know if you won the award on this here, but we'll get to it. Yeah, get to it.
So this is, it's a 140 on this job.
Okay.
This is Logan Main Street.
The one that you sent me last night?
Yep, this is Logan Main Street for, who was on that job? Hyman?
Labini.
Okay, so Victor asked me to show him what a smooth road looked like, so I did. This is a job I did for Kiewit. Y'all know Kiewit, that company? It's a job I did for Kiewit, US 67 in South Texas. It just snowed. We had a bit of a challenge of debris getting on the road. So I'll quickly drive through the project with you here. So we're coming up on the first joint. Now in Texas, the starting point of QC or QA, the acceptance, is 100 feet from the joint. Okay? The reason that was, it used to be 25 feet, but we were always getting a musk grind at the very beginning of the project. Even though it was a smooth transition, we were always getting a musk grind. And it's because they use a 25-foot moving average. And so it has to start picking up the existing, or the machine doesn't work. You have to have lead in, lead out. So when it picks up this existing surface, it's looking 25 feet back, all the way to the existing surface. So there's always a musk grind. So here's my triggering tape. See it right there where that little dot is on the windshield? That's a bug. It's going to be with us the whole trip. So, and then this is the project. Relatively flat, and we come across this bridge, and it'll show up on the graph. They didn't pave over it, and then there's no other bridges, and it just goes like this all the way to the end. So that's the project. This is the lane that I've analyzed the data on.
Do you video every job?
Yes, sir. The reason I do is because I'm a sub, and I do the test, give them the results, and then leave. And if there's a problem, I can just drive the project from my desk, and I can go, when they question something, or how do we fix this, I'll be able to see it. There's nothing on this road. This road goes phenomenally well. Let's see if I have it. You guys will appease me. I'll analyze this. So you cannot access specific pad. I've analyzed it in ProVal, so we'll just look at it piece by piece. So fixed interval. Your analysis is based on 528 feet every 10th of a mile. That's where you get paid QC or get penalized every 10th of a mile. Okay.
Right.
So I put my fixed interval at 528 feet. So 90, there's the threshold there at the top. This is all the paving numbers. Every 10th of a mile is there below. Okay. So you can see that we have numbers in the 22 range, and there are lots of these. And then the highest one is the 52, 53. Okay. So this is what you call a smooth road. The table shows you what those numbers are.
This is, US 67, right?
This is US system, not your project. So I wanted to show you what potentially, if you use two skis, if you follow best practices, nothing special about this project whatsoever. It was an overlay, okay? There was no milling here. This was strictly taking the existing surface.
What was it before?
You saw it. You saw the pictures of it.
I mean,
What was the IRI before?
Shit, I don't know. It wasn't an improvement project, so I don't know. You know, it was just an overlay. You know, and they had to meet a certain level of smoothness. They do have different, unique equipment to promote their smoothness. If you ever get a chance to take a picture of a Kiewit ski, I would strongly recommend it. It's pretty unique. There's a 26.55. Have you already hit a 26 with your IRIs?
A couple of times we have to have.
Okay. What did you do to hit a 26? Do you know? Do you know? Do you know? Okay.
I just know what the tape looked like when it came in.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't.
So again, if you're not tracking your work, here's a 20, that 31, so on and on. Okay. So we talked about the histogram. So you put that histogram in there, and I'm going to do the short continuous because it makes sense. No, I'm going to do the long continuous because that's a 528 foot. I'm going to put my top threshold at 60 because I know they didn't have anything above a 60. And then I had it 60 to 50, 50 to 40, 40 to 30, every 10 hour. And what this is going to tell me, and you form it, I'll see if this is a helpful piece of information. SAM is a big program. It takes a while to analyze, especially when you got fallout data inside your computer that slows down the RAM all the time. So this is it's HMA northbound lane 1. I don't know what highway that is, but I was given the data earlier today. So here's the graph of your road. It's about a mile long project. That same 90 threshold is up there, but your lowest number is probably 50, and your highest number is pushing that mark of 85. Okay, so this road is what I would consider a good road. It's not a great road.
So this road started off at 165.
Okay, so is this a percent improvement?
What lane is that too? Was it the right lane or
This
the
is
left
the,
lane?
this
It's
is
the right
first
lane.
lane. It was the right lane against curb and gutter.
And that one,
Let's see.
I
this
thought that
is
one wasn't even, they
northbound
didn't
lane
grind
1.
that one at all
That's against.
because of the issues that were
That's
on the
inside
road.
lane. Okay.
Lane one's at inside.
Okay. Okay. So,
Yeah, so it was a mill and fill.
okay. Let's look at the table on this as well.
So it
And
was
this
like
is northbound. The reason I ask is
Yeah.
because on where we started, right? So it seems like, so on this job, kind of an outlay of what we did on this job. This job was the one we talked about with had the oscillating rollers, couldn't vibrate. We milled 3, put back 2.5, right? Or 2, put back 2.
Mill 3, put back.
We milled 3, put back 2. Another thing on this one is there was a lot of quarter crown or rolled crown on the old road coming, and it varied anywhere from 8 feet to probably 14 feet out from curb and gutter. So we actually started this road in the center of the median and split the median. So our first pass, and that's why I'm asking, is we did, if it was northbound, I guess for my own knowledge, is the north, if we started northbound on the first pass, and kind of the roll different. If the second pass coming back southbound, it was smoother. The second lane where we had total stoppage off of a hot mat. That's kind of going on to your thing of having better data, right?
On the right lane, both northbound, southbound, when the mill went through, it got into road base, got into concrete.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, without
affects-
naming the 100 problems of the job, just things that we could look at and say, hey, here's something that, you know, we know where we're gonna be and where we pulled off. Or, for example, right, it'd show like, oh, you're always gonna be rougher on your first one, but your second one, just without the exact documentation, we run it, but without labeling it. This is what we did. We can't say, hey, what can we do to change that? Maybe is there something to do different? Kind of like the way we talked about how we did highway, where we make our stops on the 10-foot for a reason, right? That's kind of what I'm getting at.
Do you ski off of the new pavement
So
on this one here?
kind of the way we talk. It depends on how wide we're going. So we'll run the ski off the milled surface, unless what they mill, unless we're too tight because the ski and it can't fit and there's material and what's picking up clean and stuff. That one's for the most part. Usually our ski runs off the milled surface. We don't usually run our ski off something that we haven't milled yet, just because that reference point's no good. We like to because we want to run the ski off of something that's had a chance to improve the rideability.
That's
So-
why I was curious if you started from the inside in, would you have skied on that new surface that you paved first?
On the milled surface?
No, on your new mat that you
You
paved.
say-
Adjacent pass that you
I'll bet you 10 to 1 we
milled
ran a
surface.
joint matcher on the new pavement and the ski on the other side. That's my guess of how we did it.
And I'm pretty sure that's the way everybody in
Yeah,
this
you're
room
right.
does it, okay? It's the Geneva way, so it's how we do it, how we've been doing it, okay? So part of why you asked me here is I'm gonna bring these things up. So my suggestion is to utilize at least the smoothness of your first pass and ski on your first pass. And if you were using two skis, that problem would be solved. You wouldn't be using joint match, you would be skiing on something new. And you would transfer that all across and you would use the other ski for your depth to make sure you're.
So we often
you're
pitch pretty wide. What does that do to it?
But we also, so
You go
back to
pretty
the
wide
two
if you have
skis,
two skis.
but what we do.
Yeah, you'd have to extend it way out there if you're gonna.
But we
So
do run
that-
two skis, so to be clear on that, we do run a double ski
Yeah.
when we're just running, if we're running a naked pass. Like if we're running the outside pass on the shoulder, we'll run the ski.
Yeah.
On the inside, we'll run the double ski. We'll run the double ski, but then when we come back to reference off the new mat, we'll run the joint matcher and the ski off of that side, just because typically the roads, the widths and where we are with the lane lines that be in spec, we can't get the ski clear out there past it, because you get 10 feet of arm out there and then the aluminum bar out there, you get bouncing it. My brain can't see how the hell that ski works any better when that thing's bouncing a foot. How's that giving it any smoothness?
It's not, yeah, you gotta minimize the balance.
So that's at least from my standpoint, that's kind of the way on how we attack the projects.
So you could adjust your gates and make sure that when you paving, these are the things that, as a planning committee, before you take this job, you need to determine, how am I gonna pave this, okay? Am I gonna pave it, where am I gonna put my extensions? And then if I really would like to ski on this new mat that I just put down that I controlled, and not ski on the milled surface that I didn't control. I want to ski on what Geneva did. How can I perform that task? How can I bring my gate in so I can get my ski out there where it's not bouncing around? Because a bouncing ski is not good, trust me. So if you have to buy more bracketry or look at modifying your bracketry, then that would be a solution to figuring out how can I minimize that bounce if you're going to continue paving that width. Or can you adjust your width? Can you make 3 passes instead of 2? And I know production is important. I know as you're bidding that job, how many passes are we gonna make? What is my tons per hour gonna be? Because that's what your tons per hour, tons per hour, tons per hour. That's how you bid the jobs. you
So
know?
if you bring your gate in, and you got the other side gate way the hell out that way, your ski's gonna be moving a lot with it.
Yes, it would. I don't know where you put your ski. You can bring your ski inside on the naked edge out there. The edge is not, you're not trying to ski on
So,
the new
so
surface.
one
So
suggestion.
on the milled surface.
So
you
I
can
guess,
bring it.
as we're thinking through this, I'm just wondering if one of the things, I guess, on a multiple lift job at least, 'cause one thing they are is they're strictly on joint match, right? Is our joint can't be
5 feet away.
Well,
2 feet away,
it
6
can't be,
inches.
we can't, when we go to roll the joint, we can't have a big differential of like height. So if we're skiing, if we paved a pass and we've got an adjacent pass next to it, and we run the ski on what we just paved for the match of the joint, and if we start, and we do that, we've done it on a ton of jobs, but if we start getting the thickness difference in the seam, it starts to become an issue on that. That's a UDOT
The
issue.
biggest issue when it comes down to us getting paid, if we starve that joint over there, and if it actually goes below and we can't get joint compaction there, it's a $5, $10 a ton disincentive for that whole lot. So if we're in there and we're trying to pave and it's smooth and that ski makes us go down below the existing edge,
You can't joint roll it.
it's gonna be a problem.
Yeah.
So there's something. that needs to be-
Well, that's what I'm just thinking is one thing I guess that I'm wondering if you did is instead of running the joint matcher off the wing, if you ran the joint matcher off the center of the toe arm, right off the center of the toe arm. So if you ran it off the toe arm just right underneath the drop where it just maybe 3 feet up from the pin hitch, and just, cause that's where the center ski goes anyways, the center one, and so then you just put the arms out there and ran it, and they're just a single, because then you can move it. If something changes, you can do it in, but it's giving you a reference that it's gonna react way different. It's not getting any of the variability to it.
So this brings up that great question is how come we can't use the milling operation to improve our smoothness? Put the ski on the mill so he can improve your ability to match the grade every time you go across. You don't have that differential of depths between the 2 lanes where you can't do a joint density roll, okay? So those are questions that I always throw out and say, but the milling company, they're gonna fight you tooth and nail about putting on a ski for the milling operation because it slows their operation down.
Especially if they've got an 8-foot mill or a 7-foot mill, they're doing multiple passes. It's a highway mill. We can put our foot down and say, hey, you're running this because you're running the travel lane. Spec says you got to run the 12-foot lane mill, full width lane mill down the highway. You've got to run it, right? But there's times where we don't, and so when they run multiple, if they run a smaller mill and they're doing multiple setbacks, they never are going to run their ski.
The additional point to that, from owner's perspective, I don't know that I would ever allow that. I'm just speaking for them, because if I want 2 inches out, I know there was a 2-inch lift on there. We already deal enough with scabbing. So if we're going along and we need to smooth it out, we're going 2 inches, now we need to pave off 1.5 inches, and the whole road is scabbed now because I'm making it smooth, but I'm leaving that last 1/4 inch down.
Yeah.
It's a nightmare, huh? Scabbing is our worst enemy.
Yeah, I agree.
It's gonna be way worse smoothness wise. Because of that, if we're paving over all that scabbing, because you've gotta go in there and get
Falls apart.
compaction. Pardon?
It falls apart.
But
Well, not just that, when you're bridging it with your double drums up front, and we've got a combo roller back there, that combo roller's pushing in asphalt because it compacts at a different rate because it's a 1/4 inch thicker. We are creating roughness from that aspect, and then from a durability standpoint, if I want 2 inches gone, I want 2 inches gone. I want that whole lift gone, because there's a problem with that whole lift.
So the conversation I'd like to have with all the guys in the room is on the milling, because obviously we all deal with milling. We've all had, at least everybody in this room has had at least one bad experience with a mill situation. Is that fair to say? That whether we've been burned on,
But I want skis
can't
on
load
mill.
one way, can't do this,
Yeah.
this or this. So my question is with the milling is, we've had milling guys that'll do a great job and their pattern is good, and it's true, and I think you'll get into that on the slides, that you can only improve something so much. One of my biggest things that I believe that we can do as a company is be way more proactive with the milling contractor that we're working with, and that is, and we did that last year, and we really pushed on some of these bigger projects, but there's times when they'll get out there and I've talked to Coughlin about this a bunch, and I say Coughlin because I personally believe that every time we go to do one of their jobs, their milling process looks so much different than anybody else's. To the pattern that they leave us, it's always consistent, hatched, and right. Or we get a guy that's going out there and trying to do 200 feet a minute with his mill, and it's bouncing, and he's missing teeth, and he's leaving rivets in it, and it looks like you're planting corn down that thing. That's what it looks like, and I think we've all seen it. And now we're in here talking about 1/8 of an inch on a profilograph that you're running, but they're leaving us way bigger issues in this. Me and Tyler sat up there on I-80 last year and seen like 2-inch divots that they leave when their mill would settle, and
And we go up there and what, you gotta stop doing this. And they can't, because the more that they have to set back, their drum settles in. And I think that the mill sometimes, we as a group, myself included, my group included, is we need to get tougher with the milling guys, 100%. Right now, I feel like they just run, they kind of come out and kind of do what they want, because a milling job to me is like World War III. There's 50 things going on and you're running around with your head cut off, and there's 100 things going on, and it's like you're putting out fires everywhere when the mill's going on. It's different than an overlay or a job where you're just going one straight pass. And to me, it's like the biggest risk things we do, and our biggest failures on smoothness, I feel like, come off of milling jobs that are a bad situation with the milling. Whether he gets into scabbing, we just continue on because we don't know what to do. Or
On I-80 last year, after the first 5 days of paving, we had them actually change out their teeth because half the mill was crosshatched and, pardon?
Missing teeth.
Well, the other half, it just had different teeth on it, period. It was a coarse, a fine head and a coarse head on the same actual drum. And it actually changed our ride by, I want to say, from 80s, 70s, down to 40s and 50s. And that's the only thing we changed different.
So this is a picture of a really nice milled surface. Everybody would love to be paving on top of this right here. This is few and far in between, mostly, because you have exactly what you brought. Yeah, exactly what you brought up. Milling companies, and they're their own animal, and they like being in a hurry. And have them come back and pick up. If you've got a scad part, have them come back and pick that up again. We're so busy trying to get to the end of the day, we forget about
What's right in front of us?
Yeah, right there. We're stepping over dollars to pick up dimes, and so there's no rule that says we can't come back and take off this delaminated area. And to my knowledge, there's no rule that says they can't back up and mill again. They don't like doing it, and they're going to moan and they're going to groan, and they may up their bid the next time they give you a bid for the project. If you start making them hold their feet to the fire, basically, they're expected to do a job, and every milling operation is unique, because you have these things. What kind of milling are we going to do? We're going to do full depth milling. We're going to mill next to the curb and gutter. We're going to and then overlay it. So you have all these different types of milling. Is it full depth over here? Are we just milling off 2 inches? Are we going to just mill off the curb and gutter and put back another layer and tie into that curb and gutter?
Who has the authority to make that call?
What call?
To have them come back and do
We
it?
did it on Geneva Road last year. But the problem is.
That's
we're
what
leaving 2
we should
inches,
be watching
they
and
drop
doing,
down
and
to 3,
if,
you
what
start
I've done in the
paving 2.
past is if we're milling and I see that scabbing, I'll have them take it down with
So
it until we
it's-
get to that final
Yeah,
match.
that's what you want to do. Right
That's
in the
something
field,
that the mill
right
company
when
should
they're-
be doing, but that's something we also should be watching. I think, I agree with Jesse, we need to be more aggressive on it. We need to have somebody watching it saying, okay, we're seeing it 25 feet, get it down to where we're on that smooth surface again, then we can come by just before backhoe, clean off that little bit of scabbing we got, get it ready, and I think we're in good shape there.
Is it a manpower thing?
Yeah.
Do you have that extra guy that's out there watching it?
So there's
Or is
two-
it
there's
just
two
the
issues,
True, but
superintendent?
that's something we can
UDOT
call
on
the mill
it
company
is-
too.
I'll
to-
send the inspector.
There's a lot of times the inspectors, like, you'll go out there and you'll get into the scabbing, and there's two options, right? You drop the mill, you can't, I think we've all felt the pressure. There's 9 loaded trucks on the road, there's 600 ton in the silo, and you're an hour away from the job, and you got all this mix you gotta place, and you gotta have the road open in 2 hours, right? So it's kind of that. But it seems like on a lot of these, we get in the same situation. I think that the UDOT guy that's out there inspecting it, when we get into the scabbing, it becomes like he can't make that decision. So I think as a group, what we need to do is we need to finish the day or whatever it is right there and make that call, and just inform them that we're doing that and finishing it, instead of using the excuse of, well, he won't make the call. I think we as a group need to get better at doing that, and then at the end of the day, having a big discussion saying, hey, we ran into this, so tomorrow we see it, we're just dropping it instantly.
something-
And we did that on that one up there.
We can bring up in the pre-paving meeting.
That's what I'm
with the
saying.
owner.
Yeah.
Is it something that you could have established well ahead of time? You say to the RE, or you have in your pre-pave meeting, if we run into this, this is what it's gonna cost us. And this is what we'll expect. And then the decision's made, so then that level 4, his inspector can then say, hey, here it is, we recognize it, we can do it. That's on us.
At least they can
project
decide who has
managers
the
and
option of making that call.
So I think if it's on the project management side of the things to make that happen.
I think so too.
At the highway committee level, because I've been a part of a lot of these jobs, 90% of our projects, maybe more, we run into the same thing.
Sure.
This is the same conversation on every job we have. I think we need to have a spec that says if you run into this, this is
Yeah.
what you do, right?
Well, let me pull this thing together for y'all. So we obviously know there's a challenge with milk. I think I forgot your name, Mike. Yeah, I think it's a project management level decision, because if you guys had a checklist before you go into your pre-play meeting, the guy bid the job, you know there's these issues, you went out and drove the job before to see what kind of condition it's in for smoothness. Are we going to be able to meet the smoothness spec? Are we going to be able to meet the density spec? Are we going to be able to meet the joint spec that's on this project? You as a project manager have to have all of your bullets ready to go into your gun at that meeting and start. Because if you can plan ahead, remember my slide, think of the end first, okay? So you know the end result is we're a company that wants to make money. And the less money we spend fixing mistakes is the more money in our pocket, okay? And that shows up in caps and jackets and safety equipment and safety meetings and lunches, and all that money that's out there that y'all have made is going back to you in some form or fashion of benefit. So have a checklist. When you know we have milling, you should have a standard question. How are we going to handle this situation if it comes up? We're not saying it will come up, but if it comes up, we need to be proactive and think about how are we going to handle this result. Are you going to allow us to leave it open for traffic one night so we can come back and have a better plan for smoothness? UDOT, what is your ultimate goal? A safe, smooth ride. That's their ultimate goal. Safe and smooth. That's what they want. And they're paying you to do that. The only problem is a lot of times don't give you the budget or the time or they don't care as much as you do. Okay? They just want to get the job done. So let's think about all that. I think these are good informations. If you guys are taking notes of today's meeting, I think this milling problem is something that isn't solved right now, but we know it's a problem that can be solved before the paving season kicks in. Everybody agree with that? Mm-hmm. Victor, have I stepped on your toes or anything like that? We good?
Still told this on.
All right, good deal. So I analyzed your project. This is that same data that we did. It's about a mile long, but instead of running it at 528 feet, I ran it at 50 feet. Because I wanted to see what you did good, and I wanted to ask you what you think went wrong here. Okay? So this is in the 150 something range. Okay? It's a big number. So this big number gets averaged in with all these little numbers that are really good and throws this whole thing into a 80. Okay? So fix this, and fix that, and all of a sudden now you've lowered your IRI probably 20 points. How much money did you leave last year on the ride bonus? Does anybody know that figure?
Just under 500,000.
Just under 500,000. Okay, so that's a lot of cash. All right, a lot of money left on the table
Let me explain that a little
that
bit,
you could
please,
get. Go ahead.
before I get punched in my face.
That's all right.
Most of those we negotiated out of any incentive or disincentive. With Rick left, he just walked out.
He just walked out. He think he thought this was coming. So
No, but most of these, even up north, Jake, up there, Tremont in those areas, we negotiated out of, hey, whoa, we're gonna walk away from what could have potentially been $250,000 of bonus because of the sequence, the mill and fill, whatever we got out there, and it was just a shit show. And we're like, oh my gosh, we're gonna come out here and hit $30,000 worth of grinds with Jake, $60,000 worth of grinds, and we walked away from the money. So that was just gross loss, not net, which was not only did we not get any bonus, we actually paid another $100,000 in corrective action. And this is communication that we need to have internally without you here.
Yeah. Well, automatically,
With,
here's the philosophy of contractors, and I'm not going to say Geneva Rock's philosophy, okay? But here's my philosophy of what I tell everybody that's out there paving. Don't pay the state extra money just so you can go to work. And that's what the disincentive is you're giving them money for the privilege of going and working on their job just because you didn't do this or that, there, and the other, you know. So eliminate just the disincentives. Go after the money, sounds great, but just try to eliminate the disincentives. Don't pay somebody to let you go to work. Okay, let them pay you. That's the philosophy behind it all.
This is interesting here. So you're saying, like, if we broke that down, if we knew we had end dumps on the job, if we knew this is what you're talking about, or if we've got double bellies and we know going 80 feet or we're going 64 feet or whatever,
Yeah.
we break it out and we could actually look at that.
You can look at 64 feet, type it in, tell you exactly where it is. And especially if you knew exactly where you started, if you started the test exactly where the paving started, these things will line up perfectly with the trucks that are dumping out there. So we can guess all day long what happened here at the very
Every
beginning.
night, where it's fresh on your mind to share. If we could share that on these jobs, if we could share it, iPads or whatever, that would be huge.
We can do
Because we
that.
done it on Mountain View. Cody was sending me reports every night of what he had profiled and what he'd done. And we actually drove and seen where we was at. That job came in pretty good. I mean, it was
really
pretty
good.
decent, but we seen what we was doing. We didn't correct nothing. We talked about it the time, the nights before what was gonna do, how it was gonna do it. And it was just, the communication on it was huge. I mean, it was great.
Absolutely.
Good information.
And since you have your own machine, that guy's fixing to have a lot of work to do. So if you've got him double duty dipping in everywhere else, or he's just running the profiler, he's a guy that he's your specialty tool. You know, he's the guy that could help everybody that's out in the field with this information to go ping-ponging around the state, running what they did that day. He tested that night. He quickly gets this thing analyzed, does the histogram, does this breaking down into, I'd like to look at this at every 62 feet, or I'd like to look at this every 32 feet. And then he'll give you that data, and then he goes to bed, and you can visit with your crew that next morning and go, man, Jose, what happened here? You know, so what happened at Hoseby, you know, so we need to figure this out. But that's how you break it down, and it's good information. I mean, you have a section here that looks pretty decent, but it jumps around a lot, so you want to make sure, why is my pavement not just the same number all the time, okay? And this is where localized roughness comes in. You guys got to figure out what causes localized roughness, and I can tell you what it is, okay? What causes localized roughness? Paver stops, not enough trucks, paver slowing down, and then we'll get into my slides just a little bit more, but I'm going to share with you all of what's happening behind that paver as you're paving, okay? Any more graphs you want to look at?
Say that about trucks one more time.
Okay.
Tyler can hear.
Yeah, you do have a truck boss out here, and where is your truck guy? The guy in the beard. So Tyler, do you have your own trucks? Do you have to schedule, do you have your own trucks, or do you sub that out? Okay. How's that process work? Superintendent estimates how much paving he can get done in that 2 or 3 hour window and says, I need 15 trucks.
Yeah, all that goes down long before it gets to me.
Yeah.
I get my orders from Jesse with whatever he feels he needs on the job, really.
How far do y'all plan that out? 2 weeks, a week?
Well, yeah, we do a
24 hours?
2-week schedule, 3-week schedule.
Yeah.
Backlog, I mean, it's extended forever, but I get my orders the day before.
Exactly. It's usually how the real world happens is, oh, by the way, we need
Yeah, but we're
nine more
pre-planning, we're
trucks.
pretty good with that.
Yeah.
We pre-plan, I gotta look ahead of what's coming up and kind of have an idea. The day before is when
Final number.
when the final number comes in.
I know we got 2 VPs in here, and I guarantee you, if you can do more with less, they're all happy about that. Okay?
Except for his project.
So, over ordering trucks is just as bad for smoothness as under ordering trucks. Okay? Because now the mix is sitting in a truck, and you got this desirable need to speed up because you got all these trucks. Okay? Well, unless you put another roller into your pattern, you can't speed up. Okay? Because he can only get density based on the rolling pattern it's set and based on the speed of the paving. Okay? But even though there's 17 trucks right there in front of you, you're like, oh, we need to hurry up. Superintendent foreman is like, oh my God, hope nobody drives by and sees this, you know. So just you got a continuous paving. I know you've heard it. I know you know best practices, and I'll say it to you again: continuous paving. Use best practices. Let me pull back up the. Okay, let me take back over here. So this is Geneva Rocks paving. This is a graph of the road, and I scaled it. I don't know how the other y'all look at the graphs of the road. Do y'all scale it and look at the graphs at all?
I haven't done a lot of that, but yeah,
right.
I-80 is probably the job I've done that the most on.
Okay,
Yes.
all right. So the best scale to view the profile of the road is 1 inch positive, go through the graph, and go 1 inch negative, 200 foot long. That's usually the best scale to find elements, bumps, and dips, and those things like that. So that's the way this is scaled, and that's the way this is scaled. Okay. So this is that smooth road in Texas that I wanted you to look at, and as I scroll through there, I want you to look at it.
Hello.
That's the bridge, okay? Remember I showed you that bridge that didn't get paved? And then you can see that the angles of the rocks, the voids in the bridge, some of those things, that's how it shows up in the graph, okay?
So all the big jumps that's just elevation.
That would be the armor joint right there at 1195. That would be.
But the big changes, that's elevation, right?
It is.
So the high point is like 7/10 high. 1/7.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's because I hit that approach slab and then got up on the bridge and passed that expansion material. That void down there is that expansion material, and then you hop up on the bridge, and it's always rough. I don't know why the bridges are rough.
So 1 inch plus minus.
1 inch on the top, 1 inch on the bottom.
I think the bridges are always rough because the bridges have crowns in them.
So let me show you that. So I grab it 1 inch on the positive side,
Yeah,
and then 200 feet over,
yeah.
and then I drag it down and go 1 inch on the negative side, and then I just let go. And then that shows you all of your bumps and dips, localized roughness, yada yada. So I didn't want to go back to this, but I think it's important to talk about this. So I created a report, localized roughness on that project right there. Do you remember that graph I showed you every 50 feet? You showed how it went up at the beginning. Same thing's happening here at the very beginning. It's jumping up. That's your localized roughness. Okay. So what does that look like in that graph right there? So here's the graph of that. That localized roughness was about 2,200 feet. And this is something I wanted you to know. When I scrolled through the smooth road, did you see the graph the whole time?
Yeah.
When you scroll through your graph and it goes off the screen, that pretty much tells you you've got a bumper dip, okay? So these are good indicators. So you got to scroll up and say, what is it? And so you can clearly see there's a pretty good little bump right there. That's going to cause you a problem. There's a dip right there, and then coming into that bump. What caused it? I don't know. I wasn't, just here and there. And then it goes back down to its normal look, and then this would be localized roughness as well, because even though you're coming down an angle, it's really flat. The profiler sees it as flat, so you kind of got to tilt your head and look at it flat ways.
So this is just left, right?
This left and right
This
wheel
for
path.
your reference.
That's all it is. Just the reference of that of that
Left
graph.
will,
there.
right will. Or right will.
Left would be the green line and right would be the, and then it turns into good. This is good paving right here. Even though you got a few ups and dips, it's not like the 30s, but this is decent paving. The second thing I wanted you to notice that the two wheel paths, the lines are close together in the graph. So when you start seeing a huge separation, there's something going on with the electronics, the paver's not set up, and you'll question why. So here's a good separation between left and right wheel path. What happened here? I don't know. Did the roller cause it? I don't know. We're not tracking it. So when you look at the graph, and if somebody looks at this and goes, what happened at station 2650, then it'd be nice to know that information. And you saw that separation, then came right back good. And this is exactly what showed up on your localized roughness, and it showed up on your 50-foot increments. You saw the things going up and down.
We're waiting on the middle, that's what it was.
Probably. You never know. If you stopped, I guarantee you that's what it's going to look like. If you
A lot of
stopped.
times when we go over a manhole, it looks like that.
Exactly.
But there was no
Manholes.
manholes on this.
All right.
Well,
Well,
there was, but not for this one.
so let's see what the next slide is. I did this last night at 2:30 in the morning. So, all right. Roughness. What are the top mistakes that cause it? So you get this set of plans, and as a company, you're like, let's go for that one. Let's bid that one. Okay. Looks good. Looks like we can make some money at it. So you get this set of plans. Is that when you should start planning for smoothness? Yes or no? Yeah, it should be a thought process in the bidding process. We talked about the money that was out there that we could grab. You know, it's truly incentive money. It doesn't come from any other project, budget, anything like that. It's truly incentive for you to do a better job than what they're paying you to do. Okay, so they're paying you. They want you to be at zero bonus. They want you to be at zero disincentive. That's their goal. That's where they want you to pave. If you don't pave there and you pave worse than that, then they're going to take some of that money away. Why? Because they're going to have to do a little more maintenance on it, probably more premature than what they intended to do. So they're trying to grab some of that money up front. If you do a better job than what they expected you to do, they're going to give it to you in $100 bills. So when you start planning for smoothness, and for some reason that animation went away. So let me get that figured out real quick. Like this up here, or maybe I'm not in slideshow mode. I bet that's it. So when do you start planning for smoothness? Do you decide on, so do y'all use shuttle bugging on every project?
Not everyone.
Not everyone. So you got to put that in your decision in your planning process. When do you shuttle buggy? When's going to be most beneficial? Can we get the shuttle buggy driver off the day crew and put him on the night crew? Those kind of things. How many shuttle buggy drivers are trained to drive your shuttle buggy? And do you have enough? Okay. Next question down here, the dump guy. Is he doing you a good job? Here, obviously, they're dumping really close to the paver, and they're picking right back up. Obviously, they're double dumping because they needed more material. But if you dump too much out there, and then all of a sudden something breaks down on the paver, and this material's sitting out there cooling, and then all of a sudden you pick up and start going again, and then he starts dumping again. This right here, I promise you, is going to be localized roughness after it goes through the paver. If you're using a shoulder buggy, you will minimize that because it'll re-homogenate that material back into a hot, fresh, hot mix job.
So speaking on that, just kind of for the foreman's sake, just kind of what I'm taking away from this is, if we're using the shuttle buggy, you can have the windrow a little farther out in front of you. If you're using the elevator, it's got to be tight to you.
Yeah. If it's just a pickup machine, you want to make sure that material stays hot. That's all the advice I can give you. You got to make sure that material stays hot. But things happen, okay? The paver breaks down for sure when you're just about to get going and you've already dumped the material out there. And before you get to the guy out there, the dump man, the next truck's being dumped, okay? And so these are critical moments for your paving operation. Second thing is you can track this information, and oh, by the way, I got that. There you go. That's Paul's cards and stuff for mobile. So paver scanner is basically taking all of those thermal images back behind the paver at a constant speed. But the thing I like about the paver bar, and Texas now specs them into their spec to use them, it tracks your paving speed, it tracks your paving stops, and it tells you station by station what happened at that moment in time. So when I ask you about what happened here, you can look at the paver scanner and go, we're hot, we're cold, we're indifferent, and it'll say, well, you were running 22 feet per minute from here to here, but all of a sudden now you're running 24 feet a minute.
Does it calibrate? Can you overlap that onto the profile?
Do it all the time. I merge that paver data with the smoothness data, and the shock happens to everybody in the room because they're going, what the heck? We only kicked up the paving speed 2 feet per minute just because we had a bunch of trucks up there, but all of a sudden you got a little bit of segregation, the temperature changed just ever so slightly because the paver's trying to figure out what we're doing, and then all of a sudden you've introduced this little green band that's just a differential temperature, and that's what this machine picks up.
So on this real quick, we were going to do it out there on your guys' tool job this last year, but we got delayed. We are still partnering with Lonnie in Region 2 and Troxler, so I followed up on that.
I demoed that, yeah.
So so we're doing that this year on.
We should fast track it
all
for
of
I-80.
all of our Region 2. We are for Region 2 project with Lonnie. They're going to strap it on, cost us nothing, give us the data. Let you guys, let all of us put our heads together.
This thing's not cheap by all means, you know, but it is a constant tracking device for you as an employee to pay somebody to out there take notes and stuff like that. It's another tool for you to use to track how do we solve these problems.
So you say that's spec'd out in Texas?
It is spec'd out in Texas.
Does that eliminate destructive testing?
It does. It eliminates the nuclear density gauge. It eliminates pulling samples from the mat. All those things. If you're using paver bar, then they don't make you do all of the density tests that you normally do. Okay, because there's a direct correlation between density and thermal segregation.
It's about damn time.
Yeah. So it's relatively new. A few states are doing it.
They don't take mat tests if you have those? Or
No density test on the mat. No samples from the mat. No pull cores. Nothing. They'll take it from the paver. Make sure the gradation is correct. They'll do the gradation test. But as far as density tests on the mat, if you're using a paver bar, they don't mess with density.
Don't hold your breath.
Well, you never know. There are a lot of smart people. What happened here is the paver was sitting there, the burners were going, it was warming up that mat, and so this is temperature differential. What's happening right here? This green means it's cool. So right behind the mat, it's not compacted yet, right behind the paver. So it's uncompacted, and it's just sitting there, temperature just cooling off, because we're waiting for trucks. That's what they're doing. They got one truck in, backed him up, pay, ran out of trucks again. Same thing happened. Cool spot. They did not get compaction here. They did not pass the density right here. And so here's a fail. Because when the breakdown roller finally hit it, it did not, they had this as a failing spot on your test because it comes up in a report that says how many fails did you have.
Right where the randoms are going to fall.
You won't get your 100% bonus for that.
The randoms.
Yeah. Imagine that. We broke down for an hour.
Okay. So, again, when you start planning for smoothness, a lot of times we plan for it in the final layer. We're thinking, let's put on our A game and let's get this thing really smooth. What about the intermediate layer? Could you have planned for smoothness on it? Did all your grinding, test the intermediate layer, do all your grinding, and still, the paving crew has to put the surface mat on there. Just because you ground all the bumps and dips off the intermediate layer doesn't mean you're not going to introduce new bumps and dips if you're doing a less than perfect paving practices. Here's an easy production layer. I see the mistake here being made when you get an opportunity to do a 3.5, a 3 and a 2 inch lift. They won't even put the skis on this 3.5 inch lift. But if they skied it where there's no hindrances whatsoever, they do nothing but make this layer better. And then here, my customers have learned that if I can run the blade on the base and make it to a certain level of smoothness, then the rest of my job goes together quite well. And so my guys will not pave on a base job unless the IRI on that base is 150 or better, okay? We just run the profiler on the base. You know, it's very capable of doing
You
it.
just outed me. I mean, we hold our guys to 120.
All right. Well, I'm talking about the dirt.
Yeah,
where,
no,
where they can run a blade.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
from the PM standpoint, do we agree with that? I mean, so a real scenario, because that's kind of what we're doing here. If we pull up to the job, let's say we're paving Adeline, right? And they prep that for us, because this is a real situation. They prepped it for us. We go out there, we do 100% grade buy-off, which we've done on that job, and it's been helpful. Do we run the base on that, and then let's say that we run the base on that, and it's, because you can only improve it so much per lift, right? So let's say we run the base on that, and it's a 200. But we didn't prep it. How do we handle that situation as a PM with them? Do we still have to pave it and go out there because we've strung it and depths are good, right? We pulled a string every 200 feet, did grade verification, for that 4 miles. That's what I'm saying. It's like, but I guess that's the conversation I'm having here. Is there something we can do up front with those guys and say, or are they going to look at us and go, we're not going out there another night shift and not having you pave today, and having a grader go out there and try that again? That's kind of my question: is how do we handle that internally? Do we support this or do we not support it?
Back to the project management phase, and I'll interact my questions to you as well with that comment. When you take a bid from them, you can say, well, before we accept your base, we're going to ride this and we need the base to be 150 or 120. And is that something you're willing to accept with this bid? And then the bid process, if the guy says no, and what's that mean? Well, I'll tell you what it means. Every pass you make on base lowers the IRI 10, okay? It's just guaranteed. Been doing it for years and years and years. And every time they blade across it and blade it black, it lowers the IRI 10. 11 at the most, but 10 nearly every time, okay? So you can, at least now you have the knowledge to say, if you're at a 200 and we ride it, it's gonna take you 5 more passes to get it to a 150, or it's going to take you 8 more passes to get it to a 150. Okay, because you're liable for the surface, not the dirt guy. He's got his money, he's gone. Okay, and you can sit there and blame him all day long. Well, this ride's rough because the base road crappy. But it's your money. So it's a good point to bring up, Jess, for sure. Is how do we handle this in the field? We handle it at the bid process when you start receiving those bids from those subcontractors. And as an industry, and I know you're on the board, but as an industry whole, UAPA the members need to be thinking about that. If smoothness is important to Utah, then y'all need to be thinking about from the bottom up capabilities of paving smoothness. And so just because Geneva Rotten does it, doesn't mean Staker Parsons is going to do it. Doesn't mean Grant's going to do it, okay? So all that costs money. Would you lose the bid if you did that? So back to that plan sheet that's up there, we're really going after this bid. What are we going to do to get it? But in the end, when you think about the end first, or at the end of the job when the paving's all done and you've just spent $100,000 in disincentives trying to fix something, you've given the state an inferior product. Could you have minimized that $100,000 on the basing? So you as a company, those are things that you've got to adopt or plan or prepare.
I have a question on that, because this is something I don't know. How hard is it for the blade guys to get something smooth? Because I'm picturing in my mind, we go up there, The grader guy's up there grading. He's fighting, he's been getting his densities. The water truck's up there. He soaks the hell out of it. They roll it.
Yep.
Got QC comes behind. They're doing their tests on it. It passes. It's rock solid, and he gets it to pass. We do the grade buy-off. How hard is it for the blade guy from that point on? Because you got to get density first. They've got to get paid. Same with us. First concern is always density. Get paid for what's on the ground.
Can I interject in there, Jesse?
Yeah.
First, they gotta get gradation. So if they process it right, they should be blending it across back and forth, and then they get they get their water in that process, and then they should get compaction, and that's gonna help with the smoothness. But by the time you blade it back and forth and process it, that should help with your smoothness. So very often do I see us processing material right, and that's half the time I have to go out to a job is gradation and processing. So if we can fix the processing, that'll help with the smoothness.
I guess I'm just wondering, and we don't have any data to back it up, but on projects that we paved on that have been bladed, I'm just curious on where they truly are. Like I know we have no idea, but
Cody,
it's like,
yeah, we
how
do.
long would it take for how hard is it for a grader guy to get it to 150? Is that just kind of standard? If they're in their tolerance, are they usually at around a 150? I don't know.
It's not a problem, you can do it. If I'm speaking on Adelaide, that's a whole different barbecue, because you're paving in the median, right? Where is all of those guys traveling all day long, creating chatter? All the equipment's running up and down. You got all this different equipment, water truck, 50 dump trucks going in there all day, all night to tear the bridge down that's at the end of your paving pass. And by the time you get there a week later, like it's junk, right?
Cody could speak to what our people typically grade to.
Well, I mean, and it's pretty consistent with what you're saying. Is you get on a job that our grader operators have had time to go over it several times, as opposed to you're getting on a job and that blade's just finishing up right ahead of you. Those IRIs have always been 200s plus compared to when a blade's gone across it several times and it's been skimming those little humps. And, it gets it down to about that 150 range. That was 5 extra passes to get a good smooth mat. It does go a long ways.
I just never really. I know we've talked about it. We on the grade buy-off stuff, but I don't know. It's very few and far between that you get a job that you grade that's going to be miles long. That's just pure dirt, anyways. That you get a build up. That you get maybe 1 or 2 a year. That's this way. That's smoothness that you get a build from the ground up for us. But
it's the cheapest. It's the cheapest tool in the box on a paving project is blade. It's the cheapest tool. So if you can minimize all those problems by heck. Just blading it 1 extra day is going to help you about it. If he just goes across it twice, he's going to lower the RI 20.
Well, I can speak to the success of this on the Adelaide, the one the bird's still here.
Yeah.
So we had this. The reason this kind of fresh on my mind is our first big production pave out there, and this is kind of more of a fail than a win, but we learned a lot from it, and from then on it became a win, right? Do you feel that? So the first time we went out there, it was wet spring. They were trying to get us out there. We wanted to pave it wide so we could do it in one pass so we could utilize double bellies and get production. So they went out there and graded, but the access wasn't great to get in. They had to come over this stuff. So they went in there and they graded it, and then it was bad when they graded it, right? So then they came in, they had to build a bunch of ramps to get our trucks in and stuff so that we could access it, and it kind of got beat up. Then when we did grade buy-off, they were all over the place on the grade buy-off, so they had to regrade it. But as they regraded it,
So it rained.
It rained.
They used it as a mall route.
yeah, and then they went, and it just got worse, right? And then they made it worse after that, and that section right there of that production pave is the worst on that whole project. And then from that point on, they changed their source, actually, their ags too, right? They went to that finer.
They had a bunch of soft spots too that we found during the grade buy-off.
But this one we didn't do another grade buy-off after they regraded it.
Correct.
Right? And then all the other stuff we did was super successful with them. Their grade got a lot smoother. But this is one just kind of that sticks out fresh in my mind. What you said, trucks were coming in, their trucks, our trucks, we were coming off stuff. It was wet and it was pumping, and we were feeling a lot of pressure to get it paved. A lot of pressure from the owner to pave it.
That job and a lot of our jobs, they're matching this to pavement too. You're never going to get IRI on that unless and unless they average it, right? They're not, when we do our string buy-off out there, we're pulling a string from pavement to pavement to see if they got their depth. We're not checking this, right? It's totally different.
No, it's just pipe, but we're not at a hard tie-in on the outside.
But that's how they're grading it,
Yeah.
is what I'm saying, right? They're grading it, they're running a matcher on the concrete pavement on the edge of their blade, and they're going down through, they're matching every single bump that's in I-15.
I guess
You see
my-
it up in Davis County.
My point coming across from it though is this, is when we started really doing the 24-hour grade buy-off with them, grade got better. That's my point. Same with Mountain View. When we checked it before we paved it, and we were upfront with them about it, their stuff got better, I feel like. And when they knew we were gonna do it, we told them this is what we need.
When we
were
found
doing
issues
it.
and we made them come back and touch them up, they
Well,
realized.
but in this
they
one, I'll
need to
bet
do
you're
it
still
better.
way over a 200 because of the way that they're grading it, right? They're matching existing pavement, they're not averaging it out.
Yeah, if they're stringing off the existing, or they shot the existing and they had to match the grade, you
That's
know, so they're setting their blue tops to the grade that was out there, but they're just bringing it up. There has to be some education to the agency that's owning that road, and you guys have to also say, we have a better solution for this.
Well, I think it kind of comes back to what Mike said, and we did this with them, and we brought them into the Ogden office, and it helped is we were upfront, and when we talked that we were going to do the 100% grade buy-off, and they were supportive of it, and they were good with it and everything else, and I feel that's when things got a lot better.
We profiled the existing pavement that we're tying into, it was pretty good.
Was it?
But not to turn this into a grading class here, but they're also shooting existing pavement, and then whoever's doing a 3D model for their guidance control for the grader, it's up to them. They're the ones that dictate that, right? If they're not averaging that out and giving a good surface inside the model, you get what they put in, right?
I agree.
If the GPS guy goes and hits a hole and they're trying to average it, you're only as good as what Troy and Lance are, right? To get your grade, especially when you're matching existing. Now, Mountain View Corridor, the best, smoothest job we've had, look what they did there, right? They're not matching existing pavement, they went through, everything went good, right?
This year notably, we have over 100,000 tons on base. The Prison, Sheep Creek, Cascade. What's the answer to that question?
Well, that's what I'm
The
saying,
question
on the
is,
grading,
what would you like to
internally,
see?
if we go in, that was kind of, so to fall back, if we profile, let's take Cascade, for example. If Cascade's ready to rock and roll, we get up there, and then we go and run it, and it's 200, do we regrade it?
Arguably, that's $250,000 in incentive.
Where's my foreman? Raise your hands again.
But you're gonna have the same.
Where's
same
my-
issue on
my
Cascade
street
where you're
operator
captured
right
by curb, right? John Overland goes over and he's adjusting the line, checking on it. They're gonna match that curb, otherwise your cores are gonna be way off.
Well, that's, how do we plan for smoothness? Do you?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
That's where I'm
No,
going.
Absolutely not. That curb machine should have been put up with guidance, right?
Pardon?
I think you plan it from the bottom, just like this. The
So-
smoother is the bottom, the better chance we have all the way up
Listen,
top.
we had this information. And we played this scenario, and let's just stay with it. So, it is a 200. The foreman gets the job. The screed guy's sitting there, the foreman saying, "Hey, we need to do the best you can because we gotta pave over this 200 and we don't have many chances to get smoothness. You as a company, this is what you're handed to pave over. They want you to match grade. And so what decision does Geneva Rock make with their foreman, with their supervisors, with their paving engineers and their project engineers and their asphalt engineers and their asphalt suppliers and on it goes? What can we do to make this smooth? And what you have is an enormous challenge. So everybody has to not do the status quo. You need to be thinking, we need to save this job. And we need to, what did I say earlier? Autograph it with excellence, okay? If you're handed chicken shit, you can't make chicken salad, okay? Just the bottom line. Can't paint a pig, all right? So you do the best you can. Minimize the disincentives. Minimize the disincentives as a company. It's not always roses, that's for sure. But where you make up your losses is when you are handed a project, when you have total control, it rides relatively smooth, the curb and gutter is like straight as a string, and you can maximize your bonus of getting 30s, okay? Think about paving 30s and not 40s, and you'll hit a 40, okay? If you think about paving a 40, you're gonna hit a 50. So think about paving a 30 out here. And then all of a sudden, you've offset your loss with your bonus from another project. Because the bottom line is, where are we at as a company as a whole, profitable? So pulled this slide off the internet, just looked at it, and it just caught my eye, and this was one of the discussions we had yesterday. And so I see things that are happening here. Somebody's turning on the new mat, or dumping right directly into the paver. You've got a roller that's not being manned, of course, and there's no ski on this side here. And then E, you know, they've got their extension out here and they're loading it. They're loading their gate. Looks good, you know, it's a good mix. So what would you change for smoothness? Is there something that stands out to you that if I just did this, I think I could get a smoother ride?
Move that roller off the mat.
Ski on.
Ski. What did you say?
Move that roller onto the.
Move the roller out of the way, yeah. Move it onto the cooler mat. Hell, there's a bridge right there, right behind it. Park it right there, you know. Don't park it right where you take off. But I mean, that could be the roller guy helping to bump that edge, you know. So we don't. It's just a snapshot, so we don't know. We can play whatever scenario. Ski, I like that idea, and I like the roller idea. What else? Anything else that you see?
Use a buggy.
Use a shuttle buggy. That would definitely help you there. Again, we don't know the situation. If it's just a little old farm to market road that's out in the middle of nowhere, do you really have the money to spec in a shuttle buggy on an overlay like this? But these are the things that you should be playing out in your head as you're bidding that job. These should be the things playing out in your head as you're planning how we're going to pave this. You should be already have driven this job 2 or 3 times to see where are we going to stop and start that paver. So obviously they started this section at the bridge. Looks relatively early in the morning. So how can you set yourself to achieve smoothness? Okay. So being from Texas, football's pretty big in our high schools. As a matter of fact, some of our high school stadiums are bigger than most college stadiums. I don't know if y'all know that or not. You can Google high school football in Katy, Texas, and they have a $2.2 billion stadium, okay, for high school kids, all right? It's big business, you know. But we had a pretty decent football team, and what was important about this picture, this was a picture out of the newspaper. Number 21, he was our quarterback. He was really an All-American, and at the end of the game, the news people were right there in his face saying, man, you did such a good job. And we were so, what amazing performance you had. You rushed for 7 touchdowns, 450 yards, you passed for 300 yards. Man, is that not the most amazing thing that you ever did? And he goes, it's not me, okay? It's my team. My guys allow me to do this because this guy right here, number 55, he's blocking 1, 2, 3 guys. That's good production, you know, if he's taking care of 3 out of the 11, and then he can bust through there. And by the way, number 55, that's my son. So, that's why I have the newspaper deal. Anyway, we went on to the quarterfinals, had a great success, but it was his attention to the teammates that made him such a success. I was sharing with these guys last night that these 7 boys, these 8, 9 boys, they still hang out together. I had a boat. We had a wakeboard tower on it. Took them to the lake all the time. And not one time did these guys invite girls. It was just all guys, and that's all they did was just drive around and have fun. So understanding the paver, smoothness. This is a pretty key component to starting out smoothness. You know, you've got to get the mix through this screed right here. You got the toe point, the strike off plate, you got the angle of attack, and if you change that, you're going to be changing everything else. You've got the screed itself, and then the plate of the screed, make sure it's flat and tight and good. So we're going to play a little game here. We're going to pave real quick. How much time do we have? Are we getting bored? Are we ready to go home?
You get paid till 5.
Cody, can you open that? We're gonna be placing hot mix today. We got 2 plants that we're gonna operate of. I got Geneva Blue. I think I do. That's all they have. So as I'm setting this up for you, I'm gonna put some hot mix in that plant right there.
I don't want to be caught under some of you guys. Nope.
So in order to, and we have incentive bonus money, okay? So here's cash. Give away some solid cash. Okay. I just need that right there. Don't care about the spinner or whatsoever. How many of y'all played Twister before? How many of you played Twister with all men? Probably. I don't even want to know the answer. You go grab it and just come
You got his first volunteer. Not shy at all.
Hold your hand, stretch a little bit, try to straighten that out. Pull hard. All right, we'll pay you right here. This looks like the best open spot right here.
You put it on the table.
I could, but I was going to put it on the table.
Do you want to? We can move stuff.
It's even better. Everybody can see it there. Yeah, we'll do it. Everybody just roll the chair back. That's good. You don't have to put it all on the table. I just need a corner. Pull that right there. We're going to pave the yellow. We're going to pave the yellow brick road. All right, put these plants down there at that end, because the plant can't be that close to the paving project ever, right? That's silly. Why would they do that?
I'll be in charge of production.
All right, so I do need people in charge. So who assigns projects? Okay, who assigns projects in the room?
Phil and Mike.
Phil or Mike, pick a paving. I don't know how y'all do your deal, but if you go through a foreman or you go through a project manager, you need to pick the project manager first. The estimating's already been done. We know where the job is, and so Phil or Mike, pick the next step below you.
Ricola.
Rick?
Ryan.
Are you the project engineer? Project manager. Project manager, stand up. Project manager, you get to pick your paving crew. Does he pick the paving crew, or do you still do it, Mike? Jess picks it? Okay, so Jess, obviously we don't have roller operators here, and we don't have all of the people, but we do have a screed operator here. So we probably need him on the paving crew. And then whoever he answers to when he's doing his job.
Nia, let's put Nia up there.
Nia? So you two guys come here. I'm going to tell you what to do. Okay? So the screed operator is the guy who places the hot mix, right? Well, basically, I mean, it's the machine that you're operating, but you're putting it down, correct?
Yep.
So your job is to put a piece of peppermint candy right here on that yellow circle, right here. My left hand is not. It's cool. You just got to look like this, okay? Who is a quality control person here that you want to pick with this? Who does the picking or the quality control?
Can you see yellow?
Go with Sean.
Sean. Stand up. Okay. So Sean, your quality control. What your job is to do is to make sure the asphalt, which is these little pieces there down at the plant right over there, is placed correctly, okay? And if it's not placed correctly, then you have to fix it, or the screed man has to fix it, or the foreman has to fix it, okay? So we have this hot mix. Now I need trucking. Who's my trucking guy? Where are you at? All right. So how many trucks are we going to have to go from that plant around this way and give the hot mix to the foreman like this? Foreman gives it, runs it through the paver. Do we have a shuttle buggy driver here, or anybody with that experience?
Cody can run the shuttle buggy.
That guy knows more about the buggy than any of us.
The truck is going to bring the mix to you. You've got to get it to the paver, and you've got to give it to the foreman first, because it's his project. He's in charge of it. Gives it him, he gives it to you, you place it there. QC manager makes sure you're doing the job right. Okay? How many trucks do we need? And the reason you can't answer this question is you don't know how much time we have. Okay? So, do y'all pay by the load or pay by the hour?
Hour.
All right, so I need a plant guy. Do we have a plant guy in this room?
He's holding the cup.
There we go. Giving you this stack of money right here, because you got to pay the truck drivers, right? So, for sure. So once they return, they get $1. If they don't return, they go eat a burrito, or they get out of sequence, or they're in the bathroom, and they don't return, they don't get $1.
So hold on. Knowing that, they need a lot more trucks than what you have right now.
Well, you may need more trucks.
Trucks at the plant, like most days.
So let's get one truck just so we can get a feel for what we're about to do. Okay? So give me one truck driver.
So they get one candy, and when they come back, they get $1.
Yep. And get another piece of candy. Unless they quit, if they just good with $1, no, it's got to stay in the plant. There's going to be a lag there. You got to keep it hot. Stay in the silos there.
We're not using the bins today.
One truck driver for this scenario. See if we need any more to our paving plant. You have a truck driver?
He's the driver.
Oh, he's the driver.
I'm going to be the driver.
All right, so he's got the plant. Nope. You're going the wrong way.
We're talking drivers here.
Exactly. They always go the wrong way. They take the shortcut back. They take the long cut to you.
You're just lucky they're going to end up with the right job.
Okay. Yeah. So you give it to the shuttle buggy driver, and your job's done. You return back to the plant, get another load. So he goes back, gets $1. Okay. Who you giving it to? Foreman. Foreman gives it to the.
How much we give it to me? I should give it a favor, right? It's open, dude.
Perfect. I want them open. Yeah. Right there. Does that look like a good spot right there, QC manager? Okay. How long did that take you? You time it? You time your cycle time?
No, I didn't.
Oh my gosh. It's important, isn't it, no? To know the cycle time?
Absolutely.
All right. So we got to know the cycle time. We've got to pave this road out in 30 seconds. How many trucks do you need?
15.
15 trucks.
I can run around this pretty fast.
I need either 15 truck drivers, or you have to do it in 30 seconds and deliver all that mix to the job.
How much you got there, pal?
I only did $60. Because some of that money,
is take 2 loads.
Do I got to pick a bunch of drivers here?
If you need 15 trucks, I don't care who you pick.
30 seconds, you said?
Double bellies, and then you can do 2.
Let's drive.
Yeah, double bellies.
You guys better simulate a fast ramp.
Double bellies, you get
A
2
full
candies for
production
each.
round.
Well, he drove the first truck. He saw what the confusion was.
It's pretty bad when the
Well,
leaders.
that's it. We need to make enough mix.
You only need 24 candies.
What candy?
24 candies.
Count the yellow things.
Let me check with my mixer.
You made 2 rounds with 12 guys you got.
24. Right there. There you go.
What do you need?
I need 12 guys.
12 guys. Pick the truckers.
Let's go, boys. Let's go.
Hey, there's dollar bills at the end of this thing.
We got 16 loads.
Now, do you get everybody at the you get everybody at the plant at the same time, or do you stagger your loads?
There's no staggering today.
That's the trucking guy then?
Yeah. I mean, who makes that decision of when to stagger the loads? Jess?
He makes the decision, I overrule.
Do you?
I load trucks early all day long.
Do you want all 12 trucks at the plant at the same time? So you make sure that they're coming in at a good pace. Don't matter if it's every 2 seconds or 1 second or whatever.
Every 3 seconds.
Every 3 seconds.
Have a bottleneck. I thought you were running into
So somebody's got to count 3 seconds. Plant guy, 1, 2, 3, hand him a load. 1, 2, 3, hand him a load.
So how many?
We gotta get 2 because there's double belly.
How many drivers we got?
I don't know.
We got 2.
2 double bellies.
Never seen double bellies before. So.
You can't do double bellies.
Yeah, double bellies.
Double bellies, you only make half the money.
But you call them twice as much. 2 candies for each truck. 2 candy for each truck.
No, we don't get paid.
Do 4.
All right. The guys are standing out. The guys are out there ready for mix.
Yeah, we gotta get going. Hey, you need this is more
Yeah, just make a circle. What they're gonna do. Go back to the plant. So it's gonna get really clustered right here. I guarantee it. Yeah, I think they where the truck's gonna go. That's part of your job on setting up the job. Is you gotta get your trucks in and out in an operation.
We don't care about smoothness.
You gotta untarp your load. You gotta open them up. You can't hold more than 3. You're a shuttle buggy. You only can hold so much.
They always tell me they don't have enough trucks.
Come on, guys, not numbering fast enough. Something.
Yeah, your trucks are stacking up.
Yeah, come on, what's going on here?
Who's got going? We got this.
Just get off another job.
Does it work better if I start out?
Make sure their edges are good. It's important. We're trying to get longitudinal edge.
You want it touching the edge? Get behind me.
That's your quality control guy.
Every time they go around.
Yeah, we got an extra truck this round, so we're
Both Victor took the long way. He took the long way.
Okay.
Get the shipments out of order now.
accident.
Yeah, you just got to teams alert that from Jacob.
A little bit of a pause right there.
The info, Paul.
Hey, when is the foreman going to call me and tell me how much more mix they need?
Yeah. What's the foreman going to say? Cut it off.
The truck's off.
Okay. Stop right there. We've got it all paved out.
7 loads on the road. Where are we going to put it?
Bring your candy. 2 loads. You got any more loads you're in?
Oh shit, we're low on
3. Any more loads?
No, they get paid on the return.
No, the first return.
All right. Project engineers, what is y'all's job?
Yeah.
Come up. So what do we do with these 3 loads?
Oh, it hurt.
You dump them on the hill.
Y'all can go back and take your seat.
You gotta put them on a truck.
Did the truckers get their dollars? Are y'all done?
Yeah.
Okay, so I need what's left. It's going to the incentive program here now. So, what do we do with these?
You keep your dollars.
Where?
I don't know.
Okay. So these go back to the plant.
Put in there, party costs.
Stack those up right there. So I need you to go around and I need you to see if this is not acceptable because it's not touching the edge.
Not on the very edge.
edge.
Is that one too far over?
And that's too far over. They did terrible in that. So
Unacceptable.
Yep.
Who's the screw guy?
He's winging in and out too much.
Oh, that one's out. I guess.
That one's playing with too much dirt.
That little bobble right there.
There's another one.
Okay.
Yeah, man.
We're supposed to watch this.
I fixed a bunch of them.
And that one.
That one there.
There you go.
Okay. So we have some discrepancy here. All right. What caused these to not be right on the edge, QC guy?
Moved them too much or too little?
Okay. We overwork our mat sometimes, and we don't get density sometimes, or so we have to move. We have to make an extra pass, or we have to readjust our rolling pattern. Okay. So something happens here. I don't remember who it was now. Somebody in the trucking line says, "Come on, you're falling behind. You'll need to hurry up." Who said that? Okay. So
I said he was too slow. Oh, I just passed him. He's too slow.
Happens in the field too. But when you put that pressure on the paving crew, when did the mistakes start to happen? Right here, they started rushing. They did the little switchy-roosy right here. Like, oh, you get behind me right here, okay?
The mistake happened when he over-ordered the trucks.
What's that?
The mistake happened when he over-ordered the trucks, so then we had to ramp things up to keep things moving.
You overrid me. I said 4.
There wasn't direct communication with the plant on how much mix again.
That's right. So did we run out of mix on one plant?
Oh, yeah, one plant's out of mix.
Okay, but we still had some left. So
Other plant was out of mix too. We had to bring in.
have any problem switching over mix?
No, I had to gather up all the materials and make them.
I threw some to him.
So you dumped them out and made it easier on yourself to pick them up?
Oh, no, he threw me more mix. I
So you had to bring more mix in?
Yeah,
So we had to bring more
materials.
materials, okay?
That's a problem.
So that is a problem we should have solved before. I saw you about to count the mix and make sure you had enough, but you didn't.
Oh, the plant operator never counts the mix from the road perspective.
Well, technically speaking.
Come on.
So I'm gonna go to second here. Levine should have ordered 24 trucks. He should have ordered 24 loads. Mia, sorry.
No, you're good.
And it would have saved the company money?
A lot of money, and he could have actually done a correct trucking.
I did it. 4
estimate right
trucks.
here.
All the rounds was right. The timing, it was being all slick. You over-trucked it.
Right, because looking at that, there's 6 circles, 4, 24, whatever. We wouldn't have made a bunch of extra over there. He would have known exactly how much.
Oh, yeah,
money
we got
he
lots
could have
still in the
expected.
plant.
Yeah, what do you got with that?
So you knew how much we needed. I mean, it was pretty obvious we needed 4 times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We needed 24 tons or 2,400 tons. Hypothetically speaking. We knew how much we needed, right? So I know this was a game, and I know you didn't take it as serious because it's fun, you know, but these same problems happen in the field. Same ones. Got too much mix inside. What are we going to do to the silo? You call Cody, wherever he's at. The new salesman. Cody, you got to get rid of this mix.
Back here.
Yeah.
Okay.
You got to get rid of
deal for
you got to get rid of the mix that's in the silo. So you're the news.
I got a guy's meeting.
Yeah. Okay. So it adds another scenario to
Now we got a truck experiment. Now we're out of truck hours for tomorrow.
Yeah, because you had too many guys here, not enough trucks. Okay.
We're going back to the same
So
truck tomorrow.
my paving crew, you get bonus money because you did a good job here. You just didn't get as much, which seems to be where we're at in Geneva right now as we are. We would like to have got all of this bonus money, but we left 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 opportunities to get the bonus just based on the QC, the methods that were out there. So the paving crew, we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 7 minus 24 is 40.
24 minus 7?
Well, and how many spaces we got? 24 minus 7, yeah.
Yeah.
17?
17.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'll give it to the bottom. 4, 5,
So we're a bottom-up company, so he's on top, Dwayne.
8, 9, 10,
11, 12, 13, 15, 16, 17. Now, you get to share that with the paving crew. Equal.
I am the paving crew.
Everybody was a part of it, you know, your shuttle buggy driver, the QC guy, you can determine how much each one gets.
$4.25.
Okay, well, you're, somebody is going to not get a quarter. So, an extra buck.
The foreman gets the most.
All right. There you go. So did y'all enjoy that? Did y'all learn anything from that? Because everybody realizes that everybody's an integral part of that team that I talked about earlier, okay? When one thing doesn't go quite right, it affects everything in the down to the guy that's putting the mix on the ground and the QC guy that has to keep up with it.
Hey Dwayne, to your point, I don't know how it is for the rest of area construction, but regarding paving, it's not any one big thing that we're doing we can really point our finger on that is costing us a bunch of money. It's the little things. It's just the little things that keep adding up. The things that we're not measuring every day, or I'm not recording every day, the score that's not up there every day. Whatever it is, it's because we do so many jobs, we've got so many crews going, it's the little things, guys. And that's what he's picking up, or to pick up what he's laying down today. That's really where we're at. It's the little steps, it's the little improvements in our processes, our thoughts, our different mindsets. It's the communication that's not happening. We can't come in. Number one, we don't want to just say, hey, the wheels are falling off, we got to right the ship. We're changing direction, and we're doing pretty good.
Yes, sir.
But we're continuous improvement, so whatever we did this last year, which was really good compared to last year, or compared to the year before, but again in 2020, all we're doing is comparing ourselves to what we did last year, because we know where we're at, we sit in with the industry, and we don't want to measure ourselves to them because we're doing a little bit better than the industry. So now what we did last year is just okay this year. We need to build upon what we did this last year, and again, that's what, these little things is what we need to be thinking.
Absolutely. Each year you set the new standard for the next year. You build on what you accomplished last year. Don't forget what you did last year to get the award. Y'all got the largest or the most accredited award, I guess, the paver of the year type of project. I don't know, y'all can tell me.
Large paving project.
Large paving project of the year. Okay. So y'all won an award last year because of the job y'all did as a company. And whether you were on that project or not, but because y'all were covering other projects, everything helps everybody else. A rising tide raises all ships, okay? So, there's 6 forces. Y'all can go back up the table. I've cleared the paving job off for you so you don't have to
nice and smooth.
Break your neck. Not now. Y'all leaving? Thanks for coming.
Excuse me.
No, you're good. You're good. So there's 6 forces acting on the paver at all times. These forces are the towing force, which controls the speed. You've got the resistance of the HMA that's built up in the head. If that's not at the correct level, which is everybody teaches half the auger, if you get it too high, you're going to increase that friction force. Everybody agree with that? If you get it too low, you're going to decrease that friction force.
Yeah, but you think it really matters if as long as it's constant?
Let me answer that question. Oh, as long as it's constant?
They say they do it halfway up the augers, but what if you're running low
If
and
it's
it's
low,
constant?
you're going to get segregation because the big rocks are going to fall off to the
What
side.
about overloaded?
Overloaded is going to cause, it's going to cause rise and fall of your paver. Yeah, it's not designed. It'll change that. Go back. It'll change this right here. This angle of attack gives you this right here. Okay, so it'll change this angle of attack if you overload your auger. So back to these forces. Good question, by the way. You got the friction force of the material itself. You have the screed weight, which is adding force downward. You have the compaction resistance force of the mix, which is holding the screed up off the ground and not just dragging it through there. And then you have this vibrating tamping bar, which increases that screed weight ever so slightly. So all of these forces will be in equilibrium, okay? So to answer that question, this is what the screed's gonna do. So if you're changing anything, if you're changing any one of these forces here, then you have changed the equilibrium. And so the paver's gonna take 4 to 5 toe lengths. Some people teach 3 to 5 toe lengths. It's gonna take that long for that change to take place and go back into equilibrium. The paver will be in equilibrium. Does everybody understand that? So if you change the speed, it's going to take time for that to go back into equilibrium. If you change the depth of the mix, it's going to take that much time to go back into equilibrium. Does that make sense? Every time you step on this plate right here, what have you changed? The screed weight. And it's going to take 3 to 5 toe lengths. And so you've introduced, this is where localized roughness comes into play. It's all of these little things that are happening throughout this paving project that if you make a change here, you make a change there. We need to adjust it here. Again, 17 trucks out in front of you. Let's pick up the pace a little bit. We got enough rollers to do it. You've changed that equilibrium, and so it will fight, it will growl, it will moan, it will groan to go back into equilibrium. Everybody understand how important it is, what the paver can do for smoothness, okay? Even changing the speed. So, what are the top pieces of equipment to guarantee smoothness? Anybody got it? What?
Pavers.
Skis? What about I'm talking about the equipment itself though.
Shuttle buggy.
Shuttle buggy is one?
Paver.
Paver?
Rollers.
Let's see, where are we at here? We already talked about that, that's good. Oh, there it is, there's one. Paver, do not have my roller. So, jump the slide here. Okay. Well, you're correct in all of those, but that's not the slide. Okay. So, again, 2:30 in the morning, I apologize. So, this is an Ames profiler like the one I have. You can see the laser shooting on the wheel pass the road. And so I asked this question earlier, is where's the smoothness test on this paving project here?
Higher lane.
Where are you?
3 feet in from the curb.
2
I have
feet
no idea.
from the curb.
We're thinking it's where it's supposed to be, you know. We know the rule, 2.5 feet from the edge. Where's the wheel path here in this paving spread? Is there a shoulder there?
It's on the leg lines, right?
I don't know. Where's the wheel path on this project?
Where it rides the best.
Yeah, that'd be where we'd want to take the test, but we're limited to 2.5 feet from the edge line. That's what it says in your spec, okay? So, I guess the point I'm trying to make is, if you can know where the wheel paths are, this guy right here is going to know where the wheel paths are. If you can mark them on your paver somehow, some way, to give a visual reference for these guys rolling, because what happens in the wheel path is really, truly, honestly, all we care about, okay? We care about density because the density could be anywhere. But as far as smoothness goes, if a chunk of rock comes out and it lands in the center median, or if it lands over on the shoulder, I'm not so concerned about doing such a good job of getting that out. Let's get it out, we put the mix back in there, we put it back, roll it, call it good, okay? We've introduced segregation. It could be a pothole one of these days, someday down the road. But as far as the smoothness test goes, we're really concerned about where the wheel path is. Does that make sense?
And
So
I'd like to say, these guys did a great job last year of recognizing that anytime we had a chance where we had a big shoulder or, you know, anything like that, we did everything we could in that shoulder where there wasn't any incentive, disincentive happening to get it out of that lane.
However, that doesn't mean we can be reckless, because though there's no incentive, disincentive, every corrective action must grind has to be addressed.
Yep. I agree.
So there's no incentive, but there is corrective action that technically by spec
The
has to
tolerances are higher though on a shoulder.
Yeah.
So even on that
Right.
Mountain View corridor where we did almost everything in that shoulder, nothing showed up even though our numbers were a little higher.
So you planned it you plan to be parking over on the shoulder. You plan
Where you
for,
roll off.
yeah, so the rollers had a place to go, and that's smart. That's really why you probably won an award, because you planned better on that project there. You don't have that opportunity, luxury sometimes, there's roads without shoulders, or there's roads you're locked into curb and gutter, okay? But if everybody on the team is aware of where the wheel pass, where that test is going to be taken, that's going to give you an advantage on the next paving project, to knowing where those are. And then, I don't know how many of these I got, so.
Well, he brings up a good thing last night that was, I think Victor kind of hit on it, is the small things. I mean, as you was talking last night, did something that I never had thought of, but it brings up a good fact that we lay out the lane lines, so we know where they're at. Is the paver operator always knows where it is because he's guiding off the lane line, or if we're splitting the lane. But our rollers don't always know, and he brought up a good point last night of, hey, maybe we come up with something on big highway projects, whether it's a little flag on the back of the screen, so the roller operators know, maybe on the first pass, if it's judged, they're not going to judge them both, so if he has to stop and do one, it's not stopped on both. It's just, it's probably really good to know samples, or where you're stopping,
because it's MRI,
where you're getting water.
It is MRI, it's the average of both.
Just knowing, if you actually know where the wheel path is, like, hey, he brings up a good point. If you're going to take a scoop out or something and do it, don't do it in a wheel path. So don't jump off the screed with your foot in the wheel path. It's, you're going to get off. Just the little things. It's just
walk behind the mat.
If you can eliminate even just 100 of those a year, just because we probably have thousands, but just knowing where it is and just getting into the practice of just a little thing like that might eliminate 100.
What about the sampling? Do we avoid the wheel path when you put the plate down?
We actually, if we can, we'll put it in the middle.
You watch it for that.
We've started doing that. So.
It's important to know where the test is actually taken. You would never think that, smoothness we consider to be the whole roadway. Well, truly, it's not.
Well, I'm thinking about it
It's
now.
the average of the two wheel paths.
Yeah, so if the roller stops in the left rut, you should not stop in the right rut in the same vicinity, within 25 feet.
Yep.
Within 25 feet of that, because it's that rolling 25-foot average for that localized roughness. It should be 30 feet before or 30 feet after, because those two are going to be measured together. It's using the rules to win.
That's right. Yeah, we're not changing the rules, we're using the rules to win.
Not reinvent the wheel, just sharp.
Yeah, we're trying to
Hey, what's some ways that you've seen? So you said flags, you brought up another one last night.
There's a company called Hunter Industries, you can probably look them up and maybe look at some of their paving shreds, but they actually hook a small steel wheel roller that they have to keep it clean, of course, with release agent, but it's attached to the walk platform behind the screed, and it puts a small indentation on the mat so everybody knows where the wheel paths are, and that's where they do it there. They put it there, so
they move it
based on where the wheel path's going to be. It's very easy to move.
That's pretty cool.
Hooks into the deal, and they roll it.
You just do it with a piece of PVC pipe and just.
Yeah, I don't know what it could be.
Feather on there.
I'm telling you, I see guys put a bolt where it is, so it just makes a little mark.
Yeah, you could just put a straight piece of PVC and just a little feather, just a little thing come down, just like a little feather, just clip in the little, just throwing up a little trail. Because we see it all the time, you get a little dangler coming, or like a little, just something to scar the mat just ever so slightly. So the rollers can see it.
Yeah, so
Who's going to buy the dangler?
Chris has about 1,800 feathers for nail feathers, just like the little survey nail with the feather on it.
Yeah.
Those are like the perfect thing for that.
Do they make a mark? Well,
Just
do they melt away though, or they having to constantly
You might put a new one on a day.
push it down all the time? Okay. Whatever works. Whether it be just a paint can sitting there, that could get moved, of course, but just something it's just an idea. If you know where the wheel paths are, you could increase maybe 1% better on your bonus pay, if you just took that one extra little step. So I'm talking about the best equipment. I did this yesterday, so most of the guys in the room know, but we have the roller y'all mentioned, we have the shuttle buggy, we have the rollers and the paver. So all those pieces of equipment are important for smoothness. The most important piece of equipment is what this guy said. Hutchins Construction won the National Asphalt Pavement Association Award for the year, or NAP Award. I don't remember what it was, but anyway, they were the top paving project in the United States for that year, 2016. And they're in Arkansas, okay, where they had maybe $3 million to build a road, you know. I mean, they have a terrible highway budget, but these guys, it was the acute attention to detail, the preparedness is what we're trying to do today, and the willingness to go above and beyond when it comes to receive the industry's best practice. So they did the same thing you're doing today, is they had meetings with their paving crew in the wintertime, and they said, let's do this, this, and this. Let's try this, and let's try to implement this right here, okay? Let's go out and have these pre-paved meetings before we pave, and let's talk about the goals that we want to set for smoothness. It was the acute attention to detail that did this. So the third piece of equipment that's the most important besides the paver and the rollers is you guys, okay? You're the ones that are thinking about it. The machine's only going to do what you tell it to do, but you're the ones that are going to be operating it and helping it out. So I'm going to wrap this up with the first slide, or one of the earlier slides was thinking about the end first. So we've touched on a lot of things. We've touched about on let's pave to the striping details. And I don't know if that's an industry practice. I don't know if it's your practice or not. But this right here, the attitude is so important to making the day go smooth. And if you have the attitude to succeed, then it's going to bleed down to even the guy that's bringing out the tickets on the trucking. He'll get into it. And I've yelled at so many truck drivers, it just makes my head spin, you know. But they seem to have their own mentality of not coming in the entrance that we've had planned. And everybody's coming this way, and then all of a sudden here comes a truck this way, and he's going to turn around on the map. Okay, does that happen? Yes, it does. Challenge with personnel. I don't know how you guys, y'all get along together, but this is a challenge most industries have, is challenge with personnel, because you got wolves in the room, you got sheep in the room, and you got otters in the room, and you got lions in the room, okay? And you all have to work together. The otters want to have fun and play.
What about armadillo?
And I have armadillos.
One thing we know is happy bees make good honey.
Do they really? No, that's good to know. So that concludes my slide presentation. I'm here the rest of the day and tomorrow if y'all want to talk more and discuss. So anything that y'all picked up on that piqued an interest? Any questions that you might have?
I'm gonna have Dan pull up. It's got. Would you just Google Sheldon G. Hayes real quick?
Yeah, that's one of the ones.
I'm opening. I'm putting a challenge on the table here.
So while he's looking at that, one of the things they mentioned yesterday in his thing that I found that was interesting was he was talking about the sheen coming off of an SMA of when we profile. So there's a lot of times we'll go pave an SMA job and then we'll run the tape the next day. And he recommended that you want to wait a couple weeks, a week at least minimum, one 2 weeks minimum, because the way that it reflects and bounces off and comes to that mirror with the SMAs, the high oils, and it reflects off of that, and it's kind of like goes through a prism, so it shoots it different ways, and with the gaps in it. He was just saying, you know, you're better off to wait instead of doing it, or if there's been a big storm or something. It's just the way that laser shoots and the way that it comes back and it bounces off the mirror. That no matter what you do, if you wait 2 weeks, it'll have a better ride on the tape than it is if you do it right after.
And that's proven theory. My contractors were curious about it. So did it work?
Is that just
traffic? Traffic will take that sheen. They'll pick up some of that oily sheen that's on there. Yeah. And it was a heavy oil SMA mix, but it lowered. I tested it right after they tested it, and they were like, God, it just seems to ride better than this, you know? And so they had me come back 2 weeks later, and it dropped 13-hour ride.
Oh my God.
Wow, really? That's interesting.
Well,
I have no idea.
13-hour ride.
What typically do we run? How long do we wait to run this last year in 19? Cody, did we?
It's wherever you can fit it in right afterwards. So, I mean, like I-80, they had kind of a rolling 3 miles worth of barrels, so you kind of snuck in and out wherever they were. But it's all just dependent on the traffic control that's available.
You don't need traffic control, do you? Some of it you can do full speed, can't you?
But if you're marking lines, anything like that, you need.
Yeah, you definitely.
But I think there's different ways we can look at it. I think it's good to run it right after to get an idea of where we're at, talking to get reports of the form and stuff is an idea. Like if we see a pattern at the end of every round, we're spiking up because maybe there's a, the first load of the day is coming cold or every round or whatever.
Yeah, you won't
to
learn
do that.
anything
But
if you
the
wait
final product, I'm saying when we go to run it again, and maybe it's worth it when it's all said and done. We'd have those tapes if we ran it every night or at the end of every day for our internal use. But maybe the final turn-in pay item is like even if we have to do a rolling closure at the end of the whole project, just go through it and get them on some of these jobs. If it truly is that much better after, it's worth looking at.
I would say there's probably nothing consistent as far as when jobs have been ran.
What if you did it every day just to mark the grinds, take care of the business, and then even if the traffic control's gone and you already know you've taken care of it, you just run it one more time only for the...
I think each project's unique and we can address all this without a doubt. Without a doubt.
I just found it interesting though because we have a lot of SMA that's driven. So it's
you're absolutely right. So in 2 years, after we win award this next year, I have something for you guys here. I want to talk with you about this, and this is, let's put our money where our mouth is. What I mean by that is, I've traveled the country, really, to a different world of asphalts. I sit on a lot of different associations. You deal with a lot of people. Like I say, I spend a lot of time evaluating our competition. They've got nothing that we don't have, but what they don't have is us. And I really believe that. The investors, they're private, they're willing to invest back in us. And really, is there a lot of things that you guys can think of that we really truly want that if we go through with a good performer and a good strategy that we don't get? Think about this. Man, you guys all know I'm pretty passionate, and I'll tell you, second place sucks. Well, first place in our industry is this right here. Dan, would you read the first couple paragraphs for me?
Sure.
And I'm going to show you what good looks like here in a second.
NAPA's Sheldon G. Hayes Award has been bestowed annually since 1971 for a highway pavement exhibiting exemplary quality. Winners and finalists of the award undergo 3 rounds of rigorous evaluation in order to determine which pavement is the best in the country.
Keep going.
The first step is submission of the project for the NAPA Quality and Construction Award. Submissions are evaluated by engineers at the National Center for Asphalt Technology against a set of criteria that are all known to give a good result. Highway projects using at least 50,000 tons of asphalt pavement mixture may be considered for the Sheldon G. Hayes Award. Sorry, I got a mint in my mouth. The year after receiving the QIC award. In this phase of evaluation, an independent firm conducts a smoothness test on the top scoring QIC projects. Representatives visit the semi-finalist projects and use the same profilograph machine to measure the smoothness of the pavements after at least 1 year under traffic. Results from the profilograph testing form the basis for selecting finalists. An independent pavement expert visits each of the finalist projects to visually inspect the pavements and learn more about them. The highest score project after this final examination is awarded to the Sheldon G. Hayes Award.
That works. So, San Francisco, 2010, February. Wayland and I, Carl Clyde, we show up first time at a Napa Asphalt Association convention, if you will. We walk in there, we're looking around the room, eyes are bright, drinking the Kool-Aid, thinking we want to be a part of this, we want to be a part of this. We sit down, one of the very first words that was given, let me see here. 2010, Salt Lake City, Utah, Project I-15 Farmington. Remember that, Wayland? We show up, Jeff Warner sitting up there, Dave Kinsey sitting up there, right? We got Gary Lidley, those 3 were sitting there, and we're like, what the? We're all the way across the country, we're really in San Francisco, but we're thinking, what is going on? We're in Utah, et cetera, and who would ever pay attention to us? You just mentioned little old Arkansas, et cetera. It's not proprietary to our demographic, where we're at, what we're paving, who we're paving, who's paving it. It has to do with quality. It's a straight up fair test. It's the rules. Let's win, Cody. Man, I want to invite you guys to do this. You just won this last year, right? That starts qualifying for us. This year, why can't I-80 be that job? Why can't Cascade? Why can't Sheep Creek? Why can't our next job be that job? It's every single one of us. Second place sucks. Man, we can do this. We can do this.
I'll tell you one thing, I don't think we're second place either. As far as the state of Utah, based on the results we've had this last year and the year before, I think we're first place in the state of Utah.
You're right.
Already.
But comparing ourselves to ourselves, Nathan, we
Right.
got $500,000
I know, I love this.
on the table.
This goes
We
from
left
best in state to
way
best
too
in the
much. We
nation.
can do
That's all
way
I
better.
have.
You know, jackets for everybody. I don't care what it is. I just right. No, a dollar for you, a dollar for you. Whatever scratches that itch. Man, what gets you out of bed in the morning? Huh? What does? You know? I tell you guys all the time, when you guys pump on the brakes, most people pump on the brakes. I think is their car going to stop you? I think it's my design going to stop you. Our industry, a lot of people don't think when they flush, does it roll downhill? You guys do. We're in that industry. Somebody picks up a phone, right? We got to remember where we came from, what we're doing, what our purpose is, right? And we improve people's quality of lives every single freaking day. And we get paid pretty well to do it, right? Yeah, let's get on this path. Man, I'm committed, right? We're all committed. We have owners that are committed. We have Shane and Nathan sitting here, they're committed, right? Dwayne's going to donate all of his time for free because he's committed. He loves it. Right, but there's the deal, man. Who cares what anybody else is doing? But you know what? We care what you guys are doing. Man, we love you guys. Your quality of life, that's the good thing about this. Who knows who won these jobs? We don't know that they have our same values. What's our values? Work-life balance. We're getting there, huh? While maintaining quality, while maintaining safety, right? And being profitable, right? People development. We're going down this path. You're either with us or you're not, right? Be with us. Come on. Let's do this. It's serious, right? Anyways, take that, Rudy. Anyways, I appreciate that. Thanks for your time, though. Let's open it up for questions, right?
Yeah, let's do it. So, that Kiewit company that I tested for, they're submitting it for this. They're second place in Hawaii where they went to get the awards last year. They got second place. The top three winners get dined, but they don't know who wins
Take that
until
off there. We don't need to see that.
till the day.
We don't need to target
So,
Sacred Parsons up there.
But what did we say yesterday? What was the slogan? Pave the 30 or
Pave the 30.
pave to 30 or pave the 30?
Pave the 30.
Pave the 30. So 30.
Does everybody know what the 30 means?
IRIs,
It's the IRI, pave the 30 IRI. Because
actually,
your spec says 40, but you're going to be going up against people who are paving 30s.
what really does it mean? We want to get technical here, not just 30 is an IRI or MRI. What does 30 mean when it comes to MRI? I have a, oh, those are smaller than they look. I got something for you.
You have a dollar. You have a dollar.
$1 for you.
$1 for you.
Go in a dollar with it. Man.
Let's go get this thing.
If we win, they'll be bigger, I promise.
We'll be bigger. Can I say one thing though, really quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
If truly, just running it 2 weeks later changes it by that much. Almost every single pass on Mount View Quarter would have been in the 30s.
Really? Yeah. All SMA. I'd be curious to go run it again.
Minus the micro.
So micro, qualify that.
Micro ruined it.
Qualify. Does it work on HMA as well as it does on SMA? By running it
Waiting?
later?
No.
So SMA, you're gonna get more benefit. not
Just the
HMA.
heavy oil, sheens, OGFCs, SMA.
It was a technical question, you're dodging it. What does 30 mean?
You want me to answer that question?
No, not you, these guys.
It means we're getting paid.
How many inches it deviates over a tenth of a mile?
That's right.
Almost over a whole mile.
Was it a whole
No,
mile?
it's a 10th mile.
30 is per
528
tenth of a mile.
528 feet. All right, ask me another question, come on.
What?
Oh, this one's bigger. See where I'm going?
So where does smoothness start?
With me.
Who said with me?
Continuous paving.
I love that.
Oh, but chicken, no. The plants don't matter.
It's not the answer I was looking for, so somebody else want to throw something in.
Pretty good.
There you go. It starts, you don't get one. That's a good answer.
I've already got like 6.
Oh, do you? It starts when you pull the plans and say, we're bidding on this. That's when it starts. So you should always be thinking about that.
All right, who was good to say that?
This guy that did.
Okay, next question. When I had the slide up there, thinking about the end first, those bullet points down at the bottom, which one stood out for you personally the most?
Attitude.
Who's that?
Watch your eyes.
Watch your eyes.
Okay.
At least they're not open.
Does anybody remember my son's football number?
55.
51.
Raise your hand.
21.
There it is, Cody McNamara. Go ahead, man.
That was actually
Oh, it was Jim first, the fastest?
Phil said it first. I'm afraid to tell it now. Did you have that, Phil?
Yeah, the quarterback was 21. Did anybody look at that picture really close and see what the mascot was?
Wildcat.
Bearcats.
Bearcats, that's what it was. That's a Bearcat. It's not as big as
You got a small one.
That's what
Now these are small.
What?
Flip your nails.
Send them to win.
We gotta win.
What we got there, Dwayne?
So, I think attitude is a key component of any change that you want to make. So, are we creatures of habit? I'm leading up to a good question here. So, are we creatures of habit? Okay. It is so imperative to be thinking fresh every day. Fresh every day. So, who is the one guy on that paving train that has habits that sometimes can make or break it?
Everybody.
The roller. Whoever said that gets it. The roller guy creates the habits, and he's comfortable in that habit.
What size is
that one? He may be the best roller operator in the whole country, or the best roller operator in Geneva Rock. But he may be the one guy that's keeping you from hitting a 30. Not that he's doing a bad job, it's just that I love the challenge that Victor put out in front of you, okay? Because going after awards sometimes is important for a company. I know owners of companies, when they win an award, he goes into the room, breaks it in half, and it said that wasn't good enough. And the award doesn't even go up on the wall. He hates awards, okay? He hates getting recognized. It's a company in Oklahoma, actually, and but they win them all the time.
He needs to go to emotional intelligence.
Yeah, I know, yeah. Anger management classes, you know. But what's so funny is everybody in the room expects it. So a couple of years ago, they won an award for the highest quality material they put down in there. They had the plaque sitting there, and he went, "That was a good job." He said, "I'm very proud of this award." He said, "Not going to hang it on the wall yet, but I'm very proud of that award." What he did is he created a change of habits, because everybody was expecting the status quo. And so you as foreman, it's nice for you to be creative about things like that. Break up the monotony. Make this a fresh day. Every day is a new day when you're in the paving industry, okay? So here's the question. How important is it on a scale of 1 to 10 is to buy into your company's philosophy. How important is it for you as an employee to buy into your company's philosophy? Is it really a 10? Because a 10 is a lot to ask for out of you. Can you give them a 10? Can you give them a 10? Is it in you to give them a 10?
Let's say 8. That gives you a little bit more room to put in your own philosophy
Yeah.
and do your own thing.
Do your own thing. Roll a joint.
Way to go. I'm gonna ask you a tough question.
All right.
Mostly for myself. How many think we could do a better job of making our philosophy a little clearer? About what we do and what we don't do? What we're the best at, et cetera? And that's what we're talking about.
I think so too, yeah.
Right?
If they don't know the philosophy.
It's not, the wheels are
What's our
falling
motto?
off or whatever.
Pave the 30.
Pave the 30. How do you like that motto, pave the 30?
Yeah, fair enough.
That could start a philosophy practice, you know.
We picked on roller operators a lot. I'm gonna tell them on you, but let's make it personal just for a second. What's something that you can do to help those guys out?
Of the rollers?
Yeah. What happens, why do you think that sometimes the scouters ask them to pump the brakes or whatever because, and slow down production, as we're going out there, why do you think that they can't hold a rolling pattern? Is it just because they're not the most intelligent? I don't think so. We all have effect here.
I think some of the classes we have on rolling patterns and stuff would be good for some of the roller guys that have been doing it for 20 years and, you know, see why we're telling them to do what, you know what I mean?
So what's something specifically you can do to help us get to 30, Clayton? I'll give you a big one.
Maybe have some trainings for roller guys?
Training?
Trainings for
No,
roller
what's
guys?
something you can do? You can do personally.
Well, you can train the roller guys.
Recognize them.
Talk with them about it, maybe?
Yeah. Some of them don't.
Rick, what's something you can do personally? To help out, get us to 30, to get this award. What's something you can do personally? Stick to our plan. Stick to our plan. Now let's somebody.
Yeah, fair enough. Hey, by the way, I tried to bid that even though it's
Yeah.
They did you?
Nick, I got
What
something.
can you do personally?
Can I participate?
You gotta say point of order.
So I know something that, I was thinking about that, and I don't want the thing.
Oh, you're getting it. You get it.
It's too small. So I know on my end, I think of some of the successful ones we've had, and then I think of a conversation, I won't name the job, but, you know, went up, noticed that maybe I just assumed that everybody understood our rolling, that we were always gonna go off the side, always just go, and I just kind of thought that was just a standard deal. I know we've trained on it. We've hired a lot of new people in here. And one of the comments from the roller, and I think kind of goes back to the training is, you know, I think it would pay off. I think when we go out and we support the foreman, meaning me, the staff, everybody in there, when we go and we support the foreman in front of the crews and say, hey, this is a team effort, support the foreman and let everybody know, hey, if we're going to one goal, this is what we're doing and how important your job is. I think when everybody understands and buys in, because believe it or not, there's like the old model of just the roller guy. And I've heard that like 20 years, that's all you'd hear is, hey, I just want to be a roller guy. It's just, you know, it's easy, you just get up there. And I think we even joke about it now. Like you look at getting on a roller, it's probably one of the very most important things. And I think recognizing in their mind how important they are to the project, how important they really are and how valued they are. Because I think that we just all get into that we overlook that part of it. And it's just, I think, recognizing and showing the roller operators how important that they are to the project. And hey, this is what we expect. And this is how we'd like to roll this. And here's the reason why. And there's times they'll come and say, hey, well, when I go to do that, it's hard. I can't see the curve. So, I go and I turn, and if I hit the curve, then I get a letter, because now we're out here patching curve, right? But it's true. These are the questions that we get. You wanted to get real? Well, yeah. So every time I turn with this big, giant 88-inch roller and on a 12-foot pass, and I go and I hit the curve, then you come out and we get in trouble, and then the owner calls and goes, well, why'd you hit the curve, or why'd you do this or that? So a conversation with them, letting them know how important it is and seeing it from their perspective. What can we do to help you get there? Right? And then, so then when you show up, then if they're not doing, you can say, hey, we talked about this. I know you said, we were going to roll this. We're going to stick to the pattern. What changes? Did something change on why we're not doing it now? And instead of me going to revving up to 10, you could just ask, hey, what happened? Is there a reason? Did something change? Did the mix change? QC change? I think being more open to their view instead of just, why are we not doing it? Because they are super important. It's true. I mean, if you're paving a highway job and you drive by, and I get calls all the time, God, it looks like nobody's doing nothing. That means it's going great. If guys are running around, it's bad. But if everybody's just standing there, it looks like you're not doing anything, and just guys are standing there, and you're like, well, we don't need 2 street guys. I drove by, and it's just like they're just standing there. Well, yeah, that's because shit's going good. That's the bottom line. So that's my feeling, is recognizing.
I'm going to add to this because it brought up a point that I mentioned last night, but I didn't mention today. So you guys have your own profiler. So I think if you had a 5-day profiling event for this project, so he tests it after you get done paving, he's there the next morning with the reports, he hands a report to the foreman, the screed operator, each of the rollers, they all get a report, and you go over that report and you go, I see we have localized roughness here at this station number. Can you tell me kind of what happened here? And get everybody kind of thinking about it. It's good with an independent company like myself because I'm not the bad guy. I'm not him, and they don't feel like they're in trouble with me, okay? So they're just giving me feedback. But when that happens, and 2 or 3 companies have done that with me, the 3rd day, everybody's meeting me at my window because they want to see what they did the day before. The 4th day, they're chomping at the bits, waiting to know, did we make any mistakes today? What happened? But it was the little things, the very little things of not stopping on the mat, or stopping on the mat to chit chat with a buddy just for a brief moment, or the roller broke down, and that would show up on the report.
Well, and I can say even with that Mountain View Corridor project, a lot of that went on between Cody and myself. They'd pave a pass, I'd run a pass, they'd pave a pass, I'd run a pass, and we kind of kept tally of this one's got a little better, this one's got a little better than this. We didn't get into specifics on where the IRIs were, but we had an idea of how smooth the crew was going that day.
And did that feedback help that crew?
Yeah.
I shared it with the crew and it gave us confidence. It made us drive to be better and better. I mean, it made our goal realistic.
Yeah.
What we was trying to do, it made it seem closer and closer and closer.
It sounds like that was just as easily as telling them where they're at, giving them information and teaching.
Communication. I mean, from the top to the bottom, communication's huge.
Yeah.
If the crew feels like they're just as important as anybody else in this company, they strive harder, they work harder, and happy bees make good honey.
I agree with you 100%.
That kind of shines a spotlight on our shortcomings too. We have this great project where this communication has happened and everything turned out great, but we haven't taken that same communication to other projects. So something we can definitely improve on.
And again, the guys out in the field, obviously, the rollers feel like they might be the neglected guy, but once they see the reports and they feel like what they do matters, they become included into, even though they're way back there, they're part of the paving crew. And it's always nice to be recognized, and you as a foreman, you can do that so simply with just one of these at the end of the day with that finish roller that comes in and say, hey, man, glad you made it back safe, nice job, and go get you a taco tonight, whatever, and give him a small gift card of $5 or have him a Coke or something, have everybody a Gatorade or something like that at the end of the program or something like that. And simple things like that bring loyalty to the program and whatever that is. But that was just some of the things that we did is those 5-day classes, and I couldn't keep them out of my truck that 5th day. I mean, they were literally just, as soon as I got there, they were walking, whatever they were doing, they were walking towards my truck to meet me there when I got there.
Well, and on our end, I think it's just, kind of to piggyback what I was saying is, I think I need to do better. It can't always be on the big job.
we have a lot,
Yeah,
we do
absolutely.
a lot of shit work. We'll go out there and do strip paving that's skinnier than the paver is, and these guys shovel their guts out and they go and roll it, and it's like, you know, they turn those jobs into great jobs. It's not always the big one that's just great, you know, great job. It's the ones that are, you know, a lot of work, because I feel like I know I could do a better job.
One thing that I thought of too that I
Recognizing
could
that.
even do a better job is we have this standing rule that anything over 2,000 ton, we do the pre-paved meetings. And smoothness is a line item on that agenda, but it's never really dived into as much as Mountain View Corridor is. But one thing that I would be willing to say is that I can see the change that we can do there is dive into it. I don't want one. Mine's.
If you can get the reports to the field guys. They all said how important it was to see how they were doing. They all said that was important, and to get that report managed, processed, you know, I do it, so I know how much time it takes to look at that, and you're staring at a computer screen, you know, so it takes time, and you guys are asking for that stuff, but the guy running the profiler, you know, he's not a magician, you know. He has to drive out there, get set up, test it, and then, you know, it's dark sometimes, and his eyeballs are burning out of his head, and if he's willing to give that information to you, willing to give it to you, give it to the project managers, man, just pat him on the back every once, because
You're really talking about two things. Well, I'd like to address two things. You're talking about building quality into our work, not testing it into our work, right? We build it, everything we do, every ton, every project, every day, right?
Yep.
We build it into it. We don't test it into there. Secondly, Nathan's been pretty eye-opening for me. There's been some days, been a little frustrated here and there, and he's like, hey man, your job is to let people know what the score is. If you understand how to manipulate the score, share it. So for myself and my group this year, it's our job. We're gonna do what you asked me to do 2 years ago. Share the score. It's not personal, it's business, right? That's how we keep it business, and that's how we keep our relationships, is we talk about the data, how to move the needle, right? And we talk about people, what do you need to be able to move the needle? Information. We're going to do a better job this year about getting information out, letting you know what the score is.
that's good.
Regardless of how it looks. Guys, I've made a living out of, and a pretty good one, out of just taking information. It doesn't have to be good information, it only needs to be accurate. Our group, we're charged with giving you accurate information so you can make good decisions. That's what we're going to focus on this year. Numbers for everybody. No, but what it really means though, you know, and to maintain those relationships and understand really what's going on, and to have those conversations we need to have to continuously improve, right? And what our role is in that. And I don't know what all of your guys' role in that is. Although I would give you a few suggestions maybe, but that's from my perspective. And I don't feel like it's like a know-it-all, but it's, hey, it's frustrating to watch us trip on ourselves doing the same thing over and over anyways.
Well, nobody knows the
next
guys
year.
on the crew better than the foreman. I mean, everybody reacts different to different things. The foremen know these guys, they're like a family. They know their personalities, and every one of them, every foreman is different. The way you react with one foreman is probably different than you do with another one, but those foremen knows their crew the best and how to get the most out of their guys, because they know them. And so I think for our group is, you know, let's focus on relying on them to get to know our people on what gets them excited, or gets them, you know, one guy might be motivated by something totally different than the other guy. You might offer one guy, hey, we're gonna get you a sticker. That guy hates stickers. You just don't know. He might think it's a dumb idea, but some guys might eat it up. Every crew is different, and every guy is different, and the foremans in this company, they know all of our guys, and I think that's something that we do really, really good. Is they're good at knowing their crews. I feel like we do a really good job at that, to, you know, not always think of the negative stuff, but we know our guys. At least I feel that way. Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like everybody knows our guys pretty good. We know something personal about our guys.
Another thing I could do better, every time I go out and look, see like Nia's crew or somebody, like, oh crap, what did I do wrong now? But Nia, every time I come out, you see me, you're like, what? Okay, what did I do wrong?
Who's in trouble?
Yeah, I can be better at just coming out there and visiting, building.
Victor, I'll take this personal end in Geneva Rock. So I give away a hard hat sticker that's got our logo on it, and it says Smoothness Excellence. And I only give it to the paving crews who hit a 30 in Texas. And when I say a 30, I'm talking about if it's a 10-mile project, 30-mile project, or a 4-mile project, or a 1-mile project, the entire whole thing has to be a 30, the whole average. And you can do that with ProVal. You can just hit overall, hit analyze, and it'll give you the overall. So if one of your crews can get an overall MRI average of 35 or less, I will send up a set of stickers for those guys that come up here, so they can have hard hat stickers from Road Track and that they achieve. I don't want you to hit a 30. I just want you to shoot a goal. You eat an elephant one bite at a time. You don't eat the whole thing all at once. So you can hit a 35, you can hit a 30. If you hit a 30, you can hit a 29. You can hit a 28 every once in a while. Lowest number I ever saw in my entire life was an 18. Full mile long project, and it was 18. Needless to say, the DOT was out there verifying that information. It's possible. Sure enough, 18.
Was it a mill? Full down?
It was, no, they were paving over concrete. Paving over faulted concrete.
Oh.
They came in, they planed it off, and then they came in and just tacked it and overlaid it. Now, I don't know if it still rides a 18 or not, but it was a good picture too to see them paving over that concrete.
So I've been doing a little bit of reading these last few days, few weeks, few months, few years. And the more I understand, we're talking about the what, the how, the wow, or the how, whatever. You know, how to do it, the equipment to do it with. Things never stick unless we understand the why. So, Cody, why would paving to 30 matter to you? Why does that matter? You know, we can say we want to hit this goal, but unless we have a philosophy of why, is it just because second place sucks?
Yeah, so we want to be in the national award.
Yeah. What does that mean, though? What does that mean, though? You know,
So we've achieved our goal. Achieved what we set out. We're trying to do.
Achieving excellence.
Setting the bar.
Right. You know, it comes out to Clyde Company's kind of motto of being the premier provider, right? I mean, that idea of having your work be the signature on what you do. I mean, you drive a road, and there's projects that I've done in the past that I drive down now, and I look at them, and I'm like, I was a part of this project, and I talk about it 10 years later. Now, they're never the bad projects, but the good ones, you know?
I heard something over here.
Awesome, you guys.
What was it?
Right. Y'all heard the phrase "smoother roads last longer"? Have y'all heard that? Okay. So let's monetary. If you're the owner of the agency, you only have this much money to spend on roads in Utah. That's it. That's all there is. The guys at the Power of the Bees that do the voting and all that, they say you get $400 million. You get $500 million. So if a smoother road lasts longer, then that frees up maintenance money that they don't have to fix that road, that goes back into more roads to be let for smoother roads. Smoother roads also are safer. Smoother roads don't wear and tear on your vehicles. So the why gets way bigger than us here in this room. The why is my family's driving on that road, okay? And so I need to be as smooth and safe as possible. The Olympics came in here a few years back, okay? And so, man, wouldn't that have been a terrible asset to say, oh, well, man, them roads around Salt Lake City are rough, you know? They're not. They're decent. They're good. So the why is bigger than just Cody or just Frank or just Bob or just Ricky, those guys. So the why is last longer, more money for you to have a job that could last 20, 30 years from now, because you're still building roads. And if they're spending all this money fixing them all the time, it's hard to expand a growth industry, and that's what we're all about. We are humans. We are not a stand around and watch it happen type of people. We are active, and we always like growth. So That's the big picture of why. Safer, lasts longer. Anything else, sir?
Questions to the room?
Yeah, any other questions that you got filled out? I appreciate y'all's time for sure, you know, and I know it's a beautiful day today, and here you are stuck in a dang meeting with a guy from Texas, so it's still drive